I chilling in my crappy apartment, gaming like a proper unemployed legend, when BM, white flash, and suddenly I'm lying on rocks in some busted-up castle that looks like God sneezed on it and forgot to clean up. 10 minutes ago, I was stretching after a gaming session. Now I've got rubble digging into my skull and spider webs for curtains. Cool. Very cool. But hey, I'm Oleg now. Well, technically I'm Lin Feiwen, a Chinese orphan who never even held a girl's hand. My old life was basically work, sleep, die, repeat, so honestly, getting ice guide isn't the worst thing. My only real grief is my 2 terabytes of study materials. Rest in peace, little soldiers. Actually, no, better if nobody finds those. Let my hard drive keep its secrets. Found a cracked mirror in the hallway, and, hold up, that's my face. The one I spent 3 hours sculpting in character creation. Handsome jaw, sharp features, the works. Minus the epic beard, but whatever. I struck a pose, flipped my hair dramatically, and got a face full of wall dust. Smooth. Then I found the gear. My armor set that took 3 months of grinding. Just sitting in the bedroom like it was waiting for me. I touched it, and it zapped me like an angry cat. Silver magic runes crawled all over my body, and then this robotic voice popped into my head. System activated. I nearly peed the armor. Can you not? I yelled at literally nothing. This system takes no responsibility for the host's cowardice. Oh great. My cheat system has attitude. Pulled up my stats and I wish I hadn't. Strength 1. Can't even beat a chicken. Agility 1. A turtle is faster than you. Wisdom 1. Read a book sometime. Stamina 1. Winded after 2 steps. Crafting 1. Hopeless with your hands. Every stat had a little roast in parentheses. My own system was cyberbullying me. I tried to pick up my giant sword and couldn't move it 1 millimeter. Turned beet red trying. System helpfully informed me my strength was too pathetic. Fine. Grinding time. Did push-ups. Made it to 5 before collapsing like a deflated balloon, arms shaking like I was having a personal earthquake. But when stamina hit 2, boom, all fatigue vanished instantly. Like someone hit the reset button on my entire body. That's broken. I love it. So I went absolutely feral. Squats until my legs gave out, and I literally dropped to my knees. Sprinted hallways until I got a side cramp so bad I thought I was dying. Lifted rocks and dropped one on my foot, then hopped around the castle like a cursed pogo stick for 5 minutes. Ran into a wall at full speed because I couldn't brake. Bounced in place for half an hour like some kind of possessed spring. After all that beautiful suffering, my stats looked slightly less embarrassing. Strength 3. Can finally move a small stool. Agility 2. The turtle agrees to race you now. Wisdom 2. Can read a recipe. Stamina 4. Can pull 2 all-nighters. Crafting 1. Still tragically useless. Crafting hadn't budged. Then I noticed my armor was covered in mud from all my spectacular falls, so I grabbed a rag and started cleaning it. The crafting bar moved. Seriously? Polishing armor counts. Any repetitive hand motion increases crafting, including but not limited to polishing armor, peeling potatoes, knitting sweaters. Knitting sweaters. My combat system wants me to knit. I kept scrubbing anyway, grinning like an idiot. A full-armored moron polishing his own chest plate in a ruined castle, giggling to himself. If anyone saw me, they'd call an exorcist. Later I found the library. Opened the door and nearly died. Not from monsters, from dust. Centuries of it. Coughed until I saw stars. But the shelves were loaded with books on magic theory, history, all the good stuff. Grabbed a magic textbook, opened it, and a clump of spider web fell out onto my hand. Almost threw the book into orbit. Sat down to read it properly. My butt cracked the ancient book clean in half. Can I fix this? Crafting level insufficient. Set the broken book down gently. It kicked up another dust cloud. Choked on it while crying. This is my life now. My stomach started eating itself. Literally growling so loud it echoed through the library like some kind of demon was trapped in there. System, what happens if I starve to death? Death triggers a reload to your initial save point. You mean I'd have to grind all over again? I sat up so fast I almost pulled something. Yeah, no, dying is canceled. I'd been reading like a maniac for days, surrounded by ancient books I'd scattered everywhere like a very nerdy tornado. The sunlight coming through the dusty stained glass windows made all the floating dust sparkle like glitter, magical glitter that made me sneeze every 30 seconds. But at least now I understood where I was. The continent of Algeciras, a classic swords and sorcery world with three major powers. The human Nistad Empire, the beastman Aguila's kingdom, and, get this, a dragon homeland called Grangemouth where dragons literally run a mercenary business. Wait, you can hire a dragon. My eyes lit up like Christmas, then immediately dimmed. I couldn't even afford a copper coin. I was broker than broke. I was the concept of poverty wearing armor. The system gave me a wisdom point for learning all this. I asked for bread instead. It gave me a hunger meter showing 85% and 3 suggestions. Hunt, gather, or keep starving. I picked option 4, insult the system. Turns out my castle sits in a place called the imprisonment forest, which the books describe as a monster spawning ground. Creatures reproduce there like weeds. Cut them down, more pop up. The surrounding countries just built some watchtowers at the borders and said, not our problem. Great neighborhood. Really great. There was also some weird stuff about ancient demons being sealed away thousands of years ago, and my castle being built during the tail end of that demon war. The timeline didn't add up, and even the system told me to stay alert. Thanks, Captain Obvious in robot form. Then my stomach screamed at me, and I realized I'd been so busy reading that I completely forgot about the whole not dying of hunger thing. My vision was going dark at the edges. Priorities, Oleg. Priorities. I stumbled toward the storage room like a drunk zombie, still finding energy to trash talk the system on the way. Does this count as forgetting to eat because I was too devoted to studying? Suggest solving the forgetting to eat part first. The storage room door was so warped I had to shoulder ram it open. It screamed like I was murdering it. Then the smell hit me. Pure concentrated mold, aged to perfection. The place was a graveyard of food. Jerky that had fossilized on the hooks. Flour that had turned into literal rock. And bread wearing fuzzy green party hats of mold, throwing their own little death celebration. System, can I eat this? Consumption will grant a 1,000% chance of food poisoning debuff. 1,000%. Not even regular poisoning. Legendary poisoning. I was about to give up when I spotted a weird chest in the back corner, glowing with magic runes like it was showing off. Storage magic. Nobles used these to preserve fancy food. Usually needed a password or bloodline verification to open. I reached for it thinking nothing would happen, and my hand went straight through the barrier. Then it got stuck. Warm energy rushed up my arm. My chest armor lit up like a Christmas tree, and the magic shield around the chest rippled away like someone dropped a stone in a pond. Inside, fresh bread, wine, actual food. I shoved bread into my face so fast I nearly choked. The taste of wheat hit my tongue, and I genuinely almost cried. No shame. A man who's been staring at moldy rocks for days has earned his bread tears. Then the magic ripple spread across the entire castle, lighting up every magical device for a brief moment. Something big just happened. Castle core magic activated. Main quest unlocking. Hold on, I said through a mouthful of bread, spraying crumbs everywhere. Let me eat first. After inhaling everything in the chest, I ran to the bedroom and found a book called Chronicles of Glenom Castle. The crest on the first page matched my armor exactly. My hands were shaking as I read. Turns out the castle was built by the first Lord Herman, a guy who wanted to create a utopia where all races lived together. He was powerful enough that people flocked to follow him. Then one day, the entire Herman family just vanished. Poof. Everyone panicked and fled. Castle abandoned. I flipped to the family portrait page and froze. The man in the painting had my hair color, my jawline, my face shape. He looked like my long-lost dad from a fantasy world. So I just inherited a crumbling castle? I'm a lord now. Main quest, rebuild Glenom Castle. Progress, 0%. Reward, unknown. Failure penalty, eaten by monsters. Excuse me? What was that last part? This system is merely stating the ecological reality of the imprisonment forest. I climbed to the top of the tower and looked out. Endless forest stretching to the horizon, treetops glowing blood red in the sunset. Something howled in the distance, and every hair on my body stood up. Last life, corporate slave. This life, lord of a ruin, population, one idiot in borrowed armor, surrounded by a monster forest, 0 coins, 0 allies. The system suggested I could howl at the moon to vent my feelings. I picked option 4 again, insult the system. But honestly, still beats working 996. I punched a stone pillar and cracked it like an egg, just casually, with my fist. The old me couldn't even open a pickle jar. Strength, 43. Can punch through a castle wall. Agility, 39. Slower than an arrow but faster than a horse. Wisdom, 35. Smart enough to trick naive people into signing slave contracts. Stamina, 39. Can skip sleep for days. Also, your skin is getting tougher. Crafting, 19. Can build many things that fall apart easily. I asked the system where I ranked on this continent. Apparently, my strength was equal to an elite knight of the Nistad Empire. Cool. Not enough. Keep grinding. See, basic exercises stopped working ages ago. I could do 5,000 push-ups and the bar wouldn't even flinch. My body had adapted to everything I threw at it, so I needed something heavier. I looked at my giant sword. My beautiful, terrifying, 2-meter murder stick just leaning against the wall, gleaming in the sunlight. System, what if I use this thing as a barbell? Success probability calculation indicates. Shut up, watch this. I grabbed the handle, heaved it overhead, and it slipped. The blade came screaming down toward my neck in a very elegant death arc. Clang. Sparks flew off my neck guard. I hit the floor butt first, touched my throat, and found the blade had stopped less than a centimeter from making me into a French Revolution reenactment. Detecting sudden IQ drop. Recommend immediately ceasing suicidal behavior. That's called innovation. I yelled, then smacked my own forehead, bonding with the helmet. Wait, why am I using a sword? I could just find a big rock, ran into the forest. Came back carrying a boulder half my height. I also tried to cut trees with the giant sword first, but the blade got stuck in a trunk and wouldn't come out. Had to punch trees down instead. The gauntlets protected my hands, so the only casualty was my dignity. Next morning, full heavy armor, boulder hugged to my chest, running laps through the castle hallways. My footsteps sounded like a small earthquake, scared an entire flock of ravens out of their nests. They probably thought the castle was collapsing. System, am I losing weight? I wheezed on lap 7. Muscle density up 15%. Body fat down 8%. Then something magical happened. I could actually jog while carrying the giant sword. Every step felt like dragging a stubborn donkey, and the blade tip scraped along the ground shooting sparks behind me like the world's most dangerous sparkler, but I was moving. Strength, 44. Worth it. The real game changer came the night my crafting hit 20. I was on the roof patching a leak in the kitchen when suddenly, whoosh, knowledge flooded my brain like someone opened a dam. Woodworking joints, perfect iron tempering techniques, precise stone cutting angles, all of it just downloaded into my skull. I nearly fell off the roof from shock. When I looked down, my hands had already finished the repair on autopilot. Perfect work. Like I'd been a mason for 40 years. System, I'm hacking. Crafting threshold reached. Passive skill unlocked. Artisan's instinct. My hands knew things my brain didn't. It was like being possessed by 1,000 dead craftsmen, except instead of being creepy, it was awesome. For the next 2 weeks, I went full renovation mode. Banging, hammering, sawing, nonstop. Fixed every window, every table, every piece of broken furniture a single person could manage. My proudest achievement was the 4-post bed in the master bedroom. Version 1 collapsed at 3 a.m. while I was sleeping in it. Absolutely terrifying. Version 2 could hold 10 people. I dragged entire trees out of the forest for that project. System, could I make a living as a craftsman in this world? Current level, mid-tier imperial artisan. Only MID? What's master level? Master artisans can forge magical equipment with bare hands. My eyes went wide. That's sick. Gotta keep grinding. But God, the loneliness was brutal. Every night the forest howled and screamed with monster noises. But going out there would just be volunteering myself as a snack. I'd sit on the highest tower watching the dark tree line, catching glimpses of ghost lights flickering between the trunks or birds suddenly exploding out of the canopy. All signs that something horrible lived in there. System, can I take those forest monsters now? Audio analysis indicates the frequent howling belongs to creatures with strength values around 55 to 60. I was at 44. Yeah, maybe a few more weeks. One night after 500 weighted squats, I was stuffing bread into my face and cleaning my armor when the system pinged. High energy biological signature approaching the castle. How high energy? Strength 58. Agility 62. Danger level B. That's way higher than me. How am I supposed to? Crash. My freshly repaired window exploded inward. Wood shards everywhere like confetti at the worst party ever. In the moonlight stood a giant bat. 3-meter wingspan. Membrane wings folding in like a leather umbrella. Its tail had a glowing blue stinger dripping with venom, and there was a small animal's severed limb still dangling from the barb. Blood dripping on my nice clean floor. Gee, good evening. My voice came out like a broken squeaky toy. It stared at me with blood-red compound eyes glowing like demonic lanterns. Drool hit the floor with a sizzle. It responded with an ultrasonic shriek that rattled my teeth. Combat mode activated. Enemy, Shadow Demon Bat. Strength 58, Agility 62, Stamina 15. Special abilities, Ultrasonic Targeting, Neurotoxin. System, Tactical Suggestions. Option 1, Run. Option 2, Play Dead. Option 3, Scream for Mommy. I pick option 4. Fight this ugly thing. The bat spread its wings again. That blue stinger cut through the air, aimed straight at my heart. Holy crap, it's fast. I rolled across the floor like a tin can, armor screeching against stone. The bat swooped again, and I lunged for my sword, fingertips barely touching the cold handle before this flying nightmare came back for round 2. Recommend staying calm. Excess adrenaline impairs judgment. How? How do I stay calm? Every fong in that thing's mouth glowed blue with poison. I yanked the sword up just in time. Clang. Sparks exploded like fireworks right in the bat's bloodshot eyeballs. But the impact ripped my hand open. Blood ran down the blade, making it slippery as soap. The force slammed me backward into the wall hard enough to rattle my ancestors. What does this thing eat to get this big? Every hit shook my arms to the bone. My boots carved grooves in the stone floor from being pushed back. Blood was turning the sword handle into a slip-and-slide. System. Tell me ITS weakness. Analyzing. Wing membranes are fragile, suggest targeting. Then the universe threw me a bone. My homemade weapon rack, the one I was so proud of building, collapsed from all the shaking. A massive oak beam crashed down and nailed the bat's left wing. It screamed like a baby. A horrifying, skin-crawling, giant demon baby scream. It spiraled down and hit the floor. Now, every muscle fired at once. I leaped, swung the giant sword in a silver arc, and thwack, the bat's head popped like an overripe pumpkin. Purple-black blood splattered everywhere. I almost relaxed. Almost. The tail stinger snapped straight and launched at my face like a missile. I jerked my head sideways, felt the wind on my cheek, and it buried itself in the stone wall behind me. The brick started smoking, melting, dissolved into a fist-sized hole in seconds. I stared at that steaming crater, and my throat went dry. If that had hit me, my legs gave out. I collapsed right there in a puddle of toxic bat juice, 3 steps from the headless corpse that was still twitching. Last thought before passing out. If another one shows up, I'm done. Woke up to sunlight burning my eyelids and my right hand wrapped in green goo. Applied healing ointment from storage. Recovery time, 6 hours. Okay, you're slightly useful. Then I saw the floor. The bat blood had eaten through it. Holes everywhere. Like someone poured acid on my nice castle. Shadow bat blood is highly corrosive. Recommend immediate cleanup. Spent the next hour shoveling a headless bat monster into a hole outside, burying it under rocks like I was hiding a crime, then ripping up my own floor because the blood stains wouldn't wash out. Just scraped the whole corrupted section off and tossed it. Renovations ruined. After that, I never took my armor off to sleep again. Sure, metal edges dug into my ribs every time I rolled over. Sure, I woke up with imprints on my skin like a waffle iron. But getting surprise murdered in pajamas? No thanks. Training intensity doubled, then tripled. I refused to ever be cornered by one oversized bat again. Time became a blur. Days, weeks, months, I lost count completely. Just trained until the numbers went up. Strength, 90. Full power punch can demolish a castle wall. Agility, 88. Approaching the speed of sound. Wisdom, 79. Slightly smarter than a high schooler. Stamina, 89. Almost nothing can break your defense. Can fight continuously for 5 days. Crafting, 51. Things you build last until you're done using them, then fall apart. I could lift my old training boulders with one finger. The giant sword felt like a toy now. I was basically a walking siege weapon wearing pants. One rainy afternoon, I was in the cellar counting my dwindling food supply when I noticed something weird. The west wall was suspiciously clean. No moss, no grime. Like someone had been wiping it regularly, while every other wall looked like a swamp. My higher stats must have sharpened my observation because I'd walked past this wall 100 times before. Knocked on the bricks. One sounded hollow. Pushed it. The entire wall slid open. Secret room. Inside, dusty table, one ancient book. The cover had Herman stamped in gold letters. My heart was hammering as I opened it. To the future, Herman. If you're reading this, time is almost up and mine is running out. Do not trust the council. Do not believe their promises of peace. The demons never left. They're hiding in hell, waiting. Your bloodline is a key and a curse. When your power crosses a certain threshold, demons will smell you. Leo Herman. Cheerful stuff. Then the page moved on its own. The last line twisted into blood-red symbols and drilled into my palm. Warning. Herman bloodline activated. What the? I shook my hand frantically, watching a creepy magical crest burn itself into my skin. So now I'm not just a fitness maniac. I'm also a part-time demon hunter? System, can I return this? Bloodline binding complete. Friendly reminder. Demon hostility toward you increased by 10%. I slammed the book shut. Can I unread this? Turned to leave and heard a click behind me. The secret door was closing. By the time I reached it, the trigger brick had turned into regular stone. The room was just gone. If my palm wasn't still burning with that glowing crest, I'd think I hallucinated the whole thing. Then, ice up my spine. I could suddenly feel something deep in the forest. Something evil. Something aware of me. Warning. Demonic energy detected. Main quest activated. Foil the demon conspiracy in Malaga City. Malaga City? Where is that? Can you give me a map at least? I packed my last bread, grabbed the wine I'd been saving, and checked my gear. Farewell, Hermit Fitness Arc, I muttered, tightening every strap. Please let this city have a decent inn. Stood at the castle gate one last time and looked back. Sunlight through the broken ceiling, dust floating over my training ground. This dumpster of a castle was my home now. Wait for me, I told it, patting my giant sword. When I come back, I'm fixing you up good as new. Flag detected. Recommend caution. Shut up. Let's go. Walking through this forest was like being stuck in the world's worst hiking trip. Every step I took left a crater in the ground, because apparently I weigh as much as a small truck now. Twigs snapped under my boots like firecrackers. Birds fled in terror. A squirrel ran face first into a tree root, trying to escape me. Sorry, little guy. I'm just passing through. I carved X marks into trees with my sword as I went. Big, deep gashes that sent with chips raining down. Subtle? No. Effective? Hopefully. The weird thing was, nothing attacked me. The books called this place a monster factory, but I'd been walking for ages and hadn't seen a single creature bigger than that traumatized squirrel. That should have been comforting. It wasn't. It was the kind of quiet that makes your neck hair stand up. How much farther is this place? I kicked a branch so hard it flew like a javelin. It felt close when I sensed it from the castle, detecting elevated irritability. Recommend deep breathing and repeating, I am the best. I'll repeat you into a wait. My ears twitched. Something was moving out there. I launched myself straight up. My legs blasted a crater into the dirt and landed 20 meters up in a treetop. The branches groaned under me like they were filing a complaint. From up there, I had a perfect view. Two people burst out of the bushes below. First, a girl with long silver hair and ocean blue eyes, dress torn in 3 places, but still showing off fancy purple iris embroidery. Noble, obviously. Second, a soldier stumbling behind her, armor dented, one hand pressing a bleeding gut wound, sword wrist twisted at an angle that made my wrist hurt just looking at it. They collapsed against a tree, gasping. The soldier yanked a broken arrow out of his side, casual, and said between coughs that their attackers were too skilled to be common bandits. The girl hoped they wouldn't follow this deep into the imprisonment forest. Reasonable assumption. Wrong assumption. An arrow whistled out of nowhere and punched straight through the soldier's throat. Just like that. The girl's scream caught in her hands. The soldier reached toward her, mouth moving, but all that came out was blood. He dropped. Finally caught up, a guy with a nasty scar across his face strolled out from the shadows, crossbow in hand, 6 thugs behind him. Their leather armor was crusted with old blood, weapons still wet with fresh stuff. Real charming bunch. Scarface grabbed the girl by her hair, yanked her head back, and started monologuing. Classic villain move. He was angry about how far she'd made them chase her, how many men he'd lost in this forest. His goons tied her wrists with rough rope and clamped an iron collar around her neck. The followers of the god are getting impatient, one thug muttered, missing half an ear and looking nervous. Let's get out of here before more monsters show up. Then Scarface got gross. He tilted the girl's face up, studying it in the moonlight like he was shopping, and made some disgusting comment about wanting to taste a noble. His crusty thumb brushed her cheek. She snapped her head away. You think you can touch me? I'd rather die. My father will destroy you. They all laughed. Scarface leaned in close and whispered that her father would cooperate just fine, unless he wanted his daughter's fingers mailed back to him one by one. The fire in her eyes died. Tears rolled silently. Then she did something I didn't expect. She threw herself headfirst at the nearest tree trunk, trying to end it rather than be a hostage. Scarface yanked her back by the hair just in time, waving a red healing potion in her face. You can smash your skull all you want, sweetheart. We'll just heal you right back up. I'd seen enough. Look, I know this was textbook Ice Guy hero saves the girl stuff. I know. I've read this exact scene in like 40 different novels. Handsome loner with overpowered stats drops from the sky to save a beautiful noble girl from bandits in a forest. It's the most cliché setup in the entire genre. But what was I supposed to do? Sit in a tree and watch? I stepped off the branch. Boom. Leaves and dirt exploded everywhere like a bomb went off. I straightened up slowly, nearly 2 meters tall in full plate armor, giant sword casting a shadow behind me like the Grim Reaper's plus-sized cousin. Every piece of my gear was caked in dirt and dust from months of solo castle life. But even filthy, you could tell this armor was expensive. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. 6 bandits, 1 scarred villain, 1 tied-up girl, all staring at the armored maniac who just fell out of the sky like a meteorite. Classic entrance, Oleg. Absolutely classic. Which Night Order do you belong to? We're just handling private business. Scarface's voice sounded like he was gargling sandpaper. His eyes darted to the crest on my armor, and something flickered. Recognition? Fear? Both? Now, honestly, I wasn't planning to help. I've read enough novels to know that pretty noble girls can secretly be psychopathic tyrants who torture peasants for fun. What if I rescue her, and she turns out to be the real villain? Detecting dangerous overthinking. Recommend stopping fanfiction brain immediately. Then 3 quest notifications popped up at once. Rescue Fanny Rodnier, daughter of the Lord of Malaga. Foil the demon conspiracy. Rebuild castle. 1.7%. I sighed internally. The universe wasn't giving me a choice. Look, I wasn't really going to get involved, I said, scratching my helmet. The metal-on-metal screech echoed through the silent forest. Nobles aren't really my thing. No offense, wait. I paused. Actually, I think I'm technically a noble too now? Never mind then. Scarface saw his chance while I was rambling and swung. Full power slash, right across my chest plate. Clang. Sparks flew. Very dramatic. Very cinematic. His sword bounced off my armor like a toy. Not a scratch. Not even a white mark. I didn't even sway. Enemy damage calculated. Final damage. 0. Recommend enemy switch weapon to a back scratcher. I looked down at where he'd hit me. Then looked at him. You done? Cool. My turn. 1 swing. I didn't even put effort into it. The giant sword moved so fast, it was just a blur and a scream of torn air. Scarface didn't see it coming. 1 second, he was standing there. Next second, his top half and bottom half were filing for divorce. Blood painted the bushes red. The wind from the swing kept going. 3 guys behind him launched into the air like ragdolls. First one hit an oak tree. His spine made a sound I'll be hearing in nightmares. Second guy basically splashed against a trunk. Third poor bastard broke through an entire tree before stopping, limbs dangling at angles that shouldn't exist. 1 swing. For kills. Leaves gently floated down onto the girl's trembling dress like nature was trying to be poetic about a massacre. The remaining thugs? Gone. Vanished into the forest. Didn't even hear them leave. Fastest career change in history. Bandit to sprinter in 0 seconds. Fanny, the silver-haired girl, was frozen solid, gripping her bloody skirt so hard her nails were cutting into her own palms. She wasn't scared of the gore. She was scared of me. Fair enough. I just bisected a man like I was slicing bread. I flicked the sword clean and turned toward her. Up close, she was even prettier. Silver hair, blue eyes like the ocean, the whole fantasy girl package. My brain, she's beautiful. My survival instinct, pretty women are painted skulls. Do not be fooled. Detecting abnormal heart rate. Recommend deep breathing. Shut up. It's just post-combat adrenaline, I shouted. Fanny flinched so hard, she almost hit the ground again. Then I realized I'd screamed that out loud. At her, while standing over a pile of corpses. Smooth, Oleg. Really smooth. I fake coughed to cover it up. The system rewarded me a free attribute point for saving her, then immediately slapped me with a new quest. Escort her back to Malaga City. Of course, can't just save someone and walk away in this world. But that free attribute point though. My stats hadn't budged past 90 no matter what I did. One free point was worth more than a month of training. My eyes probably looked like slot machines. You're lucky, I told her, slinging the sword onto my back. I'm heading to Malaga anyway. I'm lost though. Need a guide. Call me Oleg. I Jim Fanny Rodnier. She dropped to one knee in a formal knight's salute. Silver hair cascading down like a waterfall. Very elegant for someone covered in blood. I swear on the Rodnier name to guide you. But could you first escort me back to where we were ambushed? I left something important there. I'll pay you well. Sure, why not? More walking through monster forest. My favorite hobby. I reached down and snapped her ropes like thread. Then I looked at the iron collar on her neck, covered in glowing purple runes. Wait, don't, Fanny panicked. The leader should have the key. That's a special anti-magic shackle. It's impossible to break with brute force. I grabbed it. The runes flared purple. She squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for the magical backlash. Instead, she heard the sound of glass shattering. She opened her eyes. The magic runes were crumbling between my fingers like frost and sunlight. I tore the collar in half like ripping a piece of paper and tossed the scraps aside. Sorry, what were you saying? Her lips trembled. How? That shackle weakens external force and counterattacks anyone who tries to break it. Huh. Must have been cheap quality. I said it like a question on purpose just to mess with her. I knew it was my armor's anti-magic effect, but where's the fun in explaining? Why is that a question? She nearly blew out her vocal cords. Anyway, you needed to grab something? Let's go. She took a breath, walked to her dead soldier, and gently closed his eyes. A ring on her finger flashed, and the body vanished. Spatial storage ring, my eyes went wide. That's so cool. It's just the lowest grade storage item, she said, smoothing out her wrecked dress. We can talk on the way. We started walking. I pulled up my stats screen in my head, wondering what to spend that beautiful, precious, hard-earned attribute point on. For guys with one swing, though, being level 90 in the starter zone hits different. The system showed me where to spend my free attribute point. Strength was the obvious choice. I slammed it in without a second thought. Big mistake. Well, no, big awesome mistake. The instant the point landed, my insides turned into a volcano. Every muscle locked up. My armor started whistling with high-pressure steam like a broken kettle, and a white tornado of vapor swirled around me. The grass under my boots shriveled and died. Tree bark started popping and cracking from the heat. Fanny turned around and saw me vibrating like a human engine about to explode. Hey, are you okay? She tried to get close, but the heat wave slapped her back. Her silver hair went flying sideways, and her skin turned red. 30 seconds of feeling like a microwave burrito later, it stopped. I flexed my fingers, squeezed my fist. The air cracked, a sonic boom from just closing my hand. Fanny stumbled backward like I'd fired a cannon. The power increase wasn't just one. It felt like times 10. No wonder the progress bar had been stuck. This was a whole different level. I briefly imagined punching the earth in half, then decided to stop thinking before I scared myself. I took one step forward. The ground shattered like a cookie. Cracks spread 8 meters in every direction. Fanny fell on her butt. Oops. Gotta control that. I tiptoed like I was walking on eggs until I figured out how to not cause earthquakes. Helped Fanny up. Sorry, got excited. You all right? She rubbed her backside, then couldn't contain herself. Sir Oleg, your strength. I've never seen. No, I've never even heard of anyone this powerful, not even in legends. Really? The books in my castle said there were plenty of people who could destroy whole countries with one hit. What year was that book published? Holy year 743. It's New Year 199. That was centuries ago. She looked at me like I'd said the earth was flat. The Nistad Empire is a shadow of itself. The Aguila's kingdom split apart ages ago, and the dragons just vanished. I smacked my helmet. Right. Castle abandoned for hundreds of years. Books slightly outdated. Like using a medieval encyclopedia to navigate modern politics. So who's the strongest person alive right now? Fanny thought about it. Probably Brindel Hedrick, the chief archmage of the Strenrable Kingdom. Rumor says his full power attack can destroy a small hill. A hill. One hill. I could blow away half a mountain right now. I was basically a walking nuclear warhead in a world of firecrackers. But I kept my cool. Demons existed here. Gods might too. Overconfidence kills. I'd read enough novels to know the cocky protagonist always gets humbled eventually. We walked on. Found more dead guards along the way. Fanny stored each body in her ring with quiet grief. When we finally left the forest, we found the ambush site. Smashed carriages, a dozen corpses scattered across the road. Fanny collected everyone, then grabbed a jeweled magic wand from a hidden compartment and a glowing red crystal. The wand matters, but this is the real prize, she said, watching my reaction carefully. When she saw I was just curious and not greedy, she relaxed. As for the ring, I'd like to give it to you as payment when we reach Malaga. A spatial storage ring? Deal. Easiest negotiation ever. We kept walking until Malaga's stone walls appeared on the horizon. Not huge by my old world standards, but compared to my vine-covered ruin, a palace. Detecting territorial insecurity. Recommend reading Castle Renovation for Dummies. You have your own territory? Fanny's eyes went wide. Then why don't you have any servants? Under my helmet, my face froze. Servants? My castle's population was me, some spiders, and furniture I built that probably collapsed the moment I left. Let's talk about you instead. How'd you get ambushed with a whole escort? Near a village on the road. Fanny stopped cold. No smoke from chimneys. No dogs barking. No sound at all. Even the wind had gone quiet. Something's wrong, she whispered, gripping her wand. Even if Father ordered people to stay indoors, it shouldn't be this silent. Abnormal silence detected. Danger probability, 187%. Suggestions, 1. Burn the village down. 2. Go around. 3. Yell, come fight me one-on-one. I pulled Fanny behind me and planted my sword in the ground. Then I heard it. Hooves. Lots of them. Riders incoming. Not a small group. Fanny raised her wand, magic glowing at the tip. I'm not strong, but I can disrupt enemies for you. Magic purity rating, B-. 30-something armored riders thundered toward us. The leader held a lance with a fluttering banner. Wait. Fanny grabbed my arm. That's our flag. That lance, it's Uncle Anderson. He's the captain of Malaga's guard. He's known me since I was born. I relaxed slightly. Kept the sword ready, though. Could be a trick. Anderson pulled up, eyeing me like I was a loaded cannon. Which, fair. His men aimed crossbows at me until they spotted Fanny. The old captain leaped off his horse, yanked his helmet off, revealing a scarred, weathered face, and dropped to one knee. My lady, thank heavens you're safe. Your father is worried sick. Then he glanced at me with obvious awe and fear. And this is? This is Sir Oleg, my savior and a landed noble knight. Fanny introduced me. Anderson knelt to me too, pouring out gratitude. When I reached down to help him up and touched his shoulder, his custom steel pauldron groaned under my casual grip. His eyes went slightly wide. Then he noticed my giant sword sticking out of the ground like a flagpole, and I could practically see him recalculating everything he thought he knew about human strength. Guilt detected. Suggestions, 1. Confess you almost didn't help. 2. Roll with it. 3. Play dumb. Please, I just happened to be there, I said, which was technically true if you ignored the system literally ordering me to do it. Fanny told Anderson the whole story. The crystal, the ambush, the escape into the forest, the rescue. She pulled the dead guards' bodies from her ring. Anderson sent scouts to investigate the ambush site. Then Fanny remembered why we'd stopped. Uncle Anderson, this village feels wrong. We think there might be an ambush. His face went dark. Sent soldiers in to check. How's father? And the cultists? Your father is overworked, but fine. The cultists burned themselves alive before we got to them. Left this behind. He pulled out a charred piece of parchment, some kind of summoning ritual. Meanwhile, back in Malaga, Fanny's father Claude was apparently losing his mind with worry and dealing with a neighboring lord named Bresk who'd gotten his hands on an artifact that could control dragons and monsters. Building a monster army. Classic villain move. The red crystal Fanny retrieved was supposed to protect the city. Then the scout who'd entered the village came running back. Just one, holding a stump where his arm used to be. They're dead. All dead. Fog appeared out of nowhere. We couldn't see anything. Then something started killing us. We couldn't see who or where or how many. Demonic energy detected. New quest. Eliminate the demon cultists and all lesser demons in the village. Note. Your delivery has arrived. Please sign for your package. Oh good. Demon takeout. And I'm the one who has to tip. New quest. Kill demons in the village. Cool. First time fighting actual hellspawn. No big deal. Just casually walking into a demon-infested fog zone alone. Totally normal Tuesday. Anderson tried to volunteer his soldiers instead, saying they'd sacrifice themselves so I could protect Fanny. Noble offer. Terrible plan. I got this. I pulled the giant sword out of the ground one-handed, tossed it over my shoulder like a beach umbrella. You guys take Fanny and wait outside. Or go back to the city. Whatever. Fanny couldn't wait. She needed to deliver that dragon crystal to her father ASAP. She threw me a badge with a lion crest for getting through the city gates, then gave me the most concerned look I'd ever received from another human being. Please be careful. I'll wait for you in Malaga. I caught the badge, stuffed it in my armor, and waved without looking back. Save me some dinner. Walking into that village felt like entering a horror movie set. Everything looked lived in but dead, plates on tables, tools by doors, but zero people, zero sounds. The fog thickened with every step until I could barely see 5 meters ahead. Is this fog poisonous? Analyzing. Composition, regular water vapor plus trace amounts of demonic energy, so demon-flavored mist. Lovely. By the time I reached the center, the fog had sealed me in completely, like being trapped inside a cloud made of bad vibes. Then I felt it, pure malice rushing at my back. Fast. I pretended not to notice. Let the thing get close. Closer. Now. I spun and swung. The attacker tried to block, cute, and got launched through 3 houses like a cannonball. Boom, boom, boom. 3 wooden buildings exploded in sequence. When the dust cleared, I finally got a look at my first demon. Human-shaped, covered in blood-red skin, ugly horns on its forehead. Like someone tried to draw a person from memory while angry. You're hideous. It was lying there motionless. Chest not moving. Looked dead. But something felt off. I could still sense hostility coming from it. So I raised my sword and smashed its head like a watermelon. Splat. Then the body started steaming and crumbled into ash, leaving just a person-shaped burn mark on the ground. Knew it was playing dead. Sneaky little, for directions at once. 3 more demons exploded out of the fog at a speed that would have killed any normal person. I adjusted my blade angle and swung horizontally. One swing. All 3 cut in half at the waist. Their top halves were still airborne when the sword wind sliced through a building wall behind them. The sonic boom arrived a full second late. Then I jumped backward just as a purple fireball hit where I'd been standing. Explosion. Rocks and debris shot skyward. Found you. I locked onto the trajectory and charged. Ground shattered under each step. A robed figure stood in the distance waving a staff, purple energy crackling at the tip. His glowing eyes went wide when I appeared in front of him in a blink. My sword came down with the force of a meteor. He dodged. Barely, but the shockwave alone sent him flying through a house wall. Buildings collapsed around the impact zone like dominoes. Before I could chase, magic chains erupted from the ground and wrapped around my legs. I flexed. They snapped like wet noodles. But a barrage of purple fireballs was already incoming. Bang, 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 bang. The explosions swallowed me whole. When the smoke cleared, more cultists had appeared. 5 of them plus 7 or 8 lesser demons, all surrounding me, dragging their injured buddy out of the rubble. Impressive strength, one cultist hissed in a creepy, echoing voice. But nothing compared to the power our true God bestows upon us. His corpse will birth a mighty divine guardian. Another. One marched toward me, staff glowing with terrifying energy. Oh great God, your humble servant. His prayer got cut short when the top half of his body exploded into red mist. I'd walked out of the smoke without a single scratch on my armor and punched through him like tissue paper. Purple blood splattered all over his friend's fancy robes. The remaining cultists scattered like roaches when you turn the lights on. The demons, being stupider, charged straight at me. Bad choice. My sword became a silver tornado and turned them into confetti. One cultist raised a magic shield. I threw my spinning sword at him. It smashed through the shield, through him, and into the wall behind, turning everything into paste. Another one started chanting something complicated, his body glowing brighter and brighter. I closed the distance in one step, clamped my hand around his neck like a vice, and squeezed. His staff and his spine broke at the same time. Then I grabbed his head with one hand and his arm with the other, and well, let's just say he became two separate people. Permanently. Caught the next one with a fist straight through his torso. Arm went in one side, came out the other. The last cultist was still twitching on the ground from earlier. I walked over, raised my boot, and stomped. Say hi to your garbage god for me. Boom. The ground cratered. Cracks shot outward like black lightning. I stood in the middle of a destroyed village, sword planted in the dirt, dust settling around me. Anyone else? Silence. Quest complete. Kills. 12 lesser demons, 5 demon cultists. I pulled out my sword and flicked off the purple blood. That's it. I expected more. Detecting successful display of overwhelming dominance. Temporary charisma bonus. 10. Side note. Too bad nobody was watching. Story of my life. The fog vanished the instant the last cultist popped under my boot, like someone pulled away a curtain. Sunset painted everything red, which was fitting because everything was already red. I sheathed my sword and flicked purple blood off my fingers. Trash. Quest complete. Reward. 3 free attribute points. Nice. But I couldn't enjoy it. Because now, with the fog gone and the light pouring in, I could actually see the village. I wish I couldn't. Pieces of people hanging on fences like jerky. A mother's headless body still frozen in a hugging pose. The baby in her arms cut open, insides gone. In the village center, bodies had been arranged into a 6-pointed star pattern, dried blood glowing purple in the grooves between them. I crouched beside a child's body. There was a little cloth bracelet on its wrist, clumsily stitched with the words, "Mommy's love," now soaked black with blood. My fingers stopped. I suddenly remembered that dusty children's songbook in my castle library, the illustration of kids dancing around a campfire. System. Is anyone still alive? All life signs terminated. Souls contaminated by demonic energy. I stood there for a while saying nothing. I was going to bury them. Then I remembered. Magic world. Necromancers exist. Demon cultists could turn corpses into skeleton soldiers. The only way to guarantee these people rest in peace was fire. Rest now. I knelt, pulled a half-burned piece of wood from the wreckage, and lit the pyre. Flames swallowed those twisted faces in seconds. Black smoke climbed into the sky, just as the last sliver of sun disappeared below the horizon, like even the heavens were saying goodbye. Walking out of that village under a dark sky, I pulled out Fanny's lion badge and studied it in the moonlight. Started walking toward Malaga. Quest: escort Fanny Rodnier safely to Malaga complete. Reward: 1 attribute point. Good. She made it. My voice came out quieter than I expected. My feet felt heavy. Detecting abnormal emotional fluctuation. Would you like psychological support? I blinked. Then snorted. You? A system? Offering therapy, this system includes a basic emotional analysis module and can provide recommendations based on host state. Fine, Dr. Robot. What should I be thinking about? Recommendation: clarify personal goals. Anger can fuel progress, but should not control decisions. My steps faltered. Then I shook my head. That's actually not terrible advice. I looked up. Stars everywhere. Moonlight tracing a pale road toward Malaga across the dark fields. I took a deep breath. Yeah, being angry isn't enough. I need to get stronger. Strong enough to kill every last one of those things. Before today, I didn't really care about the whole family destiny, demon invasion storyline. I just wanted to be powerful enough to live comfortably and not die. But that village changed something. Those weren't quest objectives lying in the dirt back there. They were people. Kids with bracelets their moms made. My hatred for demons wasn't about duty anymore. It was personal. Hooves behind me. Some of Anderson's scouts returning from the ambush site. They recognized me, jumped off their horses, tried to kneel. I waved them off. Where are Lady Fanny and Captain Anderson? Already in the city. They noticed my mood was off. One nervously asked if I needed help. Another offered to escort me to the city. That broke me out of it. I burst out laughing. Who's escorting who here? I'm fine. Go report in. Anderson's probably losing his mind waiting. They rode off, and honestly, the interruption helped. Sometimes you need someone to accidentally remind you that normal, awkward human interaction still exists. I walked and sorted my head out. Made a decision. I can't save everyone, but within my reach, I won't just watch anymore. Feeling lighter, I started swagger walking. Full confidence strut. The kind of walk where your shoulders move independently and you look like you own every inch of ground beneath you. Time to spend points. For attribute points available, the fight taught me something. I was strong enough to smash anything, but those binding chains almost caught me. If I'd been a fraction slower, those cultists could have dogpiled me with fireballs while I was stuck. Speed was the gap. Put all 4 into agility. Agility raised to 91. Note, attributes above 90 cost more points per level. How many for 92? 2 points. Of course it gets more expensive. Fine, saving the last one, but I had to test 91 agility. Found a tree about 100 meters away. Got into a sprinter's crouch. Probably looked ridiculous in full plate armor doing a track start pose, but nobody was watching. 3, 2, 1, I pushed off. The world stopped. Grains of sand hung frozen in front of my nose. A moth was stuck mid-wing beat like a photograph. The shockwave from my own legs had crystallized into a glass-like ripple in the air. I could see everything in perfect frozen detail. Then I reached out to touch the ripple, and reality snapped back to full speed. I was standing next to the tree. 100 meters behind me, the grass was still flattened from the wind pressure. A full second later, the sonic boom finally caught up. The tree shook violently like it was terrified. Not just faster. When I went all out, time itself seemed to slow down around me. The whole world hit pause, and I was the only one still moving. If those cultists try their chain trick again, they won't even see me coming. Then a thought crept in. If agility hits max, would it be actual, real-time stop? And if time is stopped, I could theoretically. I coughed violently and slammed the brakes on that train of thought. Nope, I would never use it for that. Detecting suspicious thought patterns. Recommend focusing on mission objectives. I wasn't thinking anything weird. My face burned red under the helmet. I speed-walked toward the city gates like a man fleeing his own imagination. Malaga's walls grew clearer ahead, torches blazing, armored guards checking everyone coming in, mages with staffs scanning the crowd behind them. I pulled out the Rodneyr Lion badge and marched forward. The fog cleared. The quest was done, but the reward tasted like ash. Because now I could see what those demons had actually done to this village. I'm not going to describe it in detail. I'll just say this. There was a child with a handmade bracelet that said, "Mommy's love," on it, and I had to stand there looking at it for a while before I could move again. No life signs remaining. All souls contaminated by demonic energy. I wanted to bury them. Then I remembered. Magic world. Some necromancer freak could dig them up and turn them into skeleton puppets. Fire was the only way to make sure they stayed at peace. Rest now. I lit the pyre with a piece of burning wood. Watched the flames take everything. The last sunlight vanished at the exact same moment, like the sky was closing its eyes. I walked out of that village a different person than when I walked in. Got the notification that Fanny made it to the city safely. Good. At least something went right today. Detecting emotional disturbance. Would you like counseling? You? A robot? Giving therapy? This system has a basic emotional analysis module. Fine. What's your professional opinion, Dr. Circuit board. Anger is fuel. Don't let it drive. I stopped walking. That was actually solid advice. From a sarcastic AI that once suggested I howl at the moon. Growth. Yeah, being mad won't bring anyone back. Getting stronger might save the next village. Before today, the whole demon-fighting destiny thing was just a storyline I happened to be stuck in. Now it was personal. Those weren't NPCs back there. If demon armies break the seal, historical data projects 90% extinction of all life on the continent. Then I guess they don't get to break the seal. Some of Anderson's scouts found me on the road. They tried to kneel. I waved them off. They offered to escort me to the city, and I laughed so hard my mood actually recovered. Who's protecting who here? Go report in before Anderson has a heart attack. They rode off. The interruption helped more than they knew. Sometimes you need someone to accidentally remind you that normal, slightly awkward human moments still exist. I dumped 4 attribute points into agility. Hit 91. Above 90. Each level costs more points now, because of course it does. The system charges premium rates at the top end. But 91 agility was worth every point. I tested it. Sprinter's crouch. Counted down. Launched. Time. Stopped. Sand grains hung frozen in front of my face. A moth was stuck mid-flap like a paused video. The shockwave from my own legs had turned into a visible glass ripple in the air. I was standing inside a frozen world, alone, perfectly still while everything else waited. Then I touched the ripple and, snap, reality caught up. I was at the tree, 100 meters behind me. The sonic boom hit a full second later and nearly knocked the tree over. If those cultists try to chain me again, they won't even see me blink. Then my brain went, if agility maxes out, real-time stop? And if time is frozen, theoretically I could. Nope. I coughed violently. Absolutely not. I am a gentleman. Suspicious thought patterns detected. I said I wasn't thinking anything. Face on fire under the helmet. I power-walked toward Malaga like a man running from his own brain. At the gate, every guard in a 10-meter radius pointed weapons at me. Fair. I was a nearly 2-meter-tall blood-covered stranger in full plate armor carrying a sword bigger than most people. I looked like a final boss. Relax. I'm friendly. I tossed Fanny's lion badge at the nearest guard like I was flipping a coin. The poor guy caught it one-handed while his other hand stayed glued to his sword. Checked it 3 times. Wiped sweat off his forehead. This is the Rodneyr crest, but please wait while we confirm, sir. I leaned against the wall and closed my eyes. Could hear the soldiers on the wall above me whispering. Stuff like, look at that sword, and is that purple blood, and I'm not fighting that guy, you fight that guy. Open the gates, the rusty hinges screamed as the doors swung wide. And there, walking through personally, was Lord Claude, Fanny's father, with Fanny right beside him. She'd cleaned up, fresh dress, silver hair brushed and glowing in the last light, looking like an actual noble lady instead of a forest survivor. Sir Oleg, she came running toward me, beaming like I was a returning war hero. Which, I guess, I technically was. A war hero covered in purple demon blood who'd just burned a village and had a crisis of conscience on the walkover. But sure, let's go with, welcome to Malaga. Welcome to Malaga City, Sir Oleg. Fanny curtsied like she was at a royal ball, silver hair cascading in the moonlight. Then she introduced the lineup. Her father Claude, Lord of Malaga, and Bound, the chief mage / her magic teacher. Claude stepped forward with his cape, doing that dramatic wind flutter thing. He offered his hand palm up in some fancy greeting. I noticed his knuckles were thick, calluses everywhere. This guy wasn't a pampered desk lord. He actually fought. You saved not just my daughter, but the hope of House Rodneyr, he said, voice deep and commanding. I shifted uncomfortably. My shoulder plates clinked. It was nothing. Just happened to be there. I could feel every hidden guard in the shadows gripping their weapons and staring at me. I'm sure someone else would have saved her if I hadn't. Too modest. Claude laughed and turned with a cape swish that left a trail of pine scent. I've prepared a room for you at the Lord's Keep. Follow me. As we walked through the market square, Fanny appeared at my side like a tour guide who'd had 3 espressos. Her silver hair ornaments clinked against my shoulder plate like little bells. See that building with the wolf sign? That's the Silver Moon Trading Company, biggest merchant guild in the whole Warren Duchy. If you have money, they can get you anything. She dropped her voice to a whisper, then suddenly went pink in the ears and changed the subject so fast I got whiplash. Over there is the Peregrine Tavern. She pointed at a bright 3-story building with bronze magic crystal lamps swaying in the breeze. Best bards in the city perform on Fridays, and their honey-glazed ribs are the best in town. My stomach growled so loud it could have been mistaken for a monster. Fanny snorted. Then the magic words, and that street has blacksmiths and carpenters. My brain lit up like a Christmas tree. Blacksmiths. Carpenters. I have an entire castle that needs fixing. I was mentally drafting a shopping list before she finished the sentence. The Lord's Keep was impressive. Huge stone walls glowing silver in the moonlight, towers poking up at the stars. Claude slowed down and got nostalgic about how his grandfather built this city from nothing. Just wilderness and monster forest. Merchants came, craftsmen came, brick by brick it grew. While he talked, I noticed Bound the Mage never took his hand off his staff. Smart man. Doesn't trust the blood-soaked stranger. Respect. Then, a jolt of malice hit the back of my neck. I whipped around. Nothing. The feeling vanished like smoke. Everything all right? Claude asked. Yeah, just tired. He nodded, excused himself for work stuff, and told me lunch tomorrow was mandatory. 3 maids in gray-blue dresses appeared out of nowhere to escort me. The youngest one kept sneaking looks at me, then spotted the purple blood crystals stuck in my armor joints and immediately stared at the floor like I was a walking horror movie. Walking down a hallway full of ancestor paintings, the young maid tripped on the carpet edge and crashed into me. I caught her on reflex. She looked up, saw the purple demon blood gleaming between my armor plates, and made a noise like a mouse seeing a cat. Sorry, SIR. She scrambled backward. The head maid shot her a death glare. It's fine. My voice came out muffled and deep through the helmet, which probably made it less reassuring. My room was insane. Velvet curtains hanging from a 4-poster bed, a crackling fireplace, carpet so thick my boots sank into it. After months of sleeping on a self-built bed in a ruined castle, sometimes in full armor on a stone floor, this was basically heaven. The maids offered to help me remove my armor. I politely declined, waited for the door to close, then started unstrapping. The smell that came out when the armor came off. I gagged on my own stink. I hadn't had a proper bath since I'd arrived in this world. Months of grinding, sweating, fighting, and sleeping in metal. I was basically a biological weapon. The gold-trimmed bathtub in the corner was already filled with warm, fragrant water. I slid in and almost ascended to a higher plane of existence. An actual bath. Hot water. Soap that smelled like flowers. I might have moaned. No witnesses, so it doesn't count. But even floating in paradise, my mind kept circling back to that flash of malice at the gate. My detection skill hadn't been wrong yet. That wasn't my imagination. Malice detection, level 7. Recent demonic energy contact detected. Stay alert. After the bath, I put on the linen shirt and dark blue coat they'd left out. Spent the rest of the evening polishing my armor by moonlight, getting every piece spotless. Tomorrow's lunch with the Lord. Gotta look presentable. Can't show up smelling like a demon's laundry basket. Finally crawled into the velvet bed. Softest thing I'd touched in my entire second life. My eyes closed, and, spike of malice. I rolled off the bed and had my sword in hand before my feet hit the floor. Empty room. Nobody there. But the feeling was everywhere. Multiple sources, different directions, scattered across the city. All right. I came to Malaga for 2 reasons. Hire craftsmen for my castle, and stop a demon conspiracy. I'd been so distracted by baths and soft beds that I almost forgot about the demon part. The murdered village flashed through my mind. Twisted bodies. That little bracelet. I put my armor back on. Lay down on the fancy bed, hugging my giant sword like a teddy bear. Cold steel against my chest. Somehow that felt safer than silk. Just tonight, I muttered to the empty room. Let me sleep one night without something trying to kill me. Spoiler. I did not feel confident about those odds. Knocking woke me up. Fanny's voice. Way too cheerful for morning. Sir Oleg. The feast is starting. I opened the door. She froze mid-curtsy. I was standing there in full armor, polished but clearly slept in. Her eyes traveled from my shiny shoulder plates down to my boots, still wet with morning dew. You? Slept in your armor? The disappointment on her face could have filled a swimming pool. She put on a brand new lake blue dress with a silver chain belt, clearly made an effort, and here I was looking like I'd never left a battlefield. She still hadn't seen my face. Didn't even know my eye color. I could tell that bothered her. Her ear tips went pink. Armor is my skin, I said, then immediately regretted that because it sounded insane. I mean, I'm not used to taking it off, she sighed, did a little spin that made her silk dress go swish, and led me toward the feast hall. Everyone's waiting. The oak doors opened, and I was hit by the greatest combination of smells my nose had ever experienced. Lute music, roasted apples, cinnamon, and meat. Real, actual, glorious meat. The table was a battlefield of deliciousness. Caramel-glazed roast suckling pig, rosemary lamb leg, honey-drizzled pancakes, silver utensils glittering like treasure, crystal glasses throwing little rainbows on the ceiling. You have to understand, I'd been eating nothing but bread for months. Magic preserved bread, sure. Tasty bread, okay fine. But I came from China in my past life. The land of 10,000 recipes. Eating bread every single day was psychological warfare. And now, suddenly, there was a whole roast pig staring at me with crispy skin, and I almost proposed to it. Our knight seems hungry, Fanny whispered behind her hand, giggling. Claude laughed too. Please, no need for formality. All right then. I reached up and took off my helmet. The entire hall went dead silent. Someone dropped a silver fork and it rang out like a gunshot. Everyone was staring at me, because apparently I looked way too young. Claude's knife scraped his plate with a horrible screech. He was probably doing math in his head about how old he'd been at my age and how much weaker he was. Fanny's wine cup slipped clean out of her fingers. She'd been imagining a grizzled, scarred veteran with a big beard. Instead, she got a guy her own age with breadcrumbs on his cheek. Baun the mage stroked his mustache so hard I thought he'd pull it off. His youngest apprentice was older than me. Why's everyone staring? I mumbled through a mouthful of honey-glazed ham, grease running down my chin. This is so much better than bread. Claude and Baun exchanged a look and nodded. I caught that. They were confirming to each other that befriending me was the right call. Political calculation happening in real time over roast pork. Classic nobles. Then the food parade began. Blackberry glazed wild boar ribs. Herb-wrapped rainbow trout. Entire butter-baked lobsters. One brave servant quietly slipped 2 extra plates of roast chicken next to me. I appreciated that man with my entire soul. I ate like a vacuum cleaner. Apparently, my complete lack of table manners actually relaxed everyone. Hard to be intimidated by a guy who's got sauce on both cheeks and is making happy noises at a chicken leg. After a few rounds of drinks, Claude got serious. He waved the musicians away, clapped his hands, and 4 guards carried in a black wooden chest. The bronze corner pieces gouged the carpet as they dragged it in. They opened it. Silver ingots. Gold coins with star patterns. A small fortune glowing up at me. Then Claude placed 2 more items on top. An ice crystal wolf medallion, the highest tier pass for the Silver Moon Trading Company, and a golden Rodnier family badge. With these, you can go anywhere in Malaga freely. The trading company will prioritize your business. My throat bobbed. It wasn't greed. Okay, it was a little bit greed, but mostly I was thinking about my castle. My poor, crumbling, vine-covered disaster of a home. With this money, I could hire real craftsmen, buy real materials, fix real walls. The dream was suddenly affordable. This is too generous, I said, wiping my greasy fingers on my leg armor because I am the pinnacle of class. Claude touched the lion crest on his chest. Compared to my daughter's life? Couldn't argue with that. I accepted. The treasure chest was placed at my feet, and I heard Fanny trying not to laugh. But I hadn't come here just for food and money. I set down my wine cup with a sharp clink. Lord Claude, there's something that concerns the survival of this entire city. The room temperature dropped 10 degrees. Claude slowly put down his knife. Baun's staff started glowing. You've noticed the increase in cultists recently? Yes, Claude said carefully. They've been more aggressive than ever. But every time we locate them, they kill themselves before we arrive, because they're preparing a sacrifice. My voice went flat. I was seeing that village again. Every cultist who dies is storing up energy. They're building towards something big. I looked at each person at the table. Spoke slowly, clearly. They're going to summon a demon. Fanny's spoon hit the floor with a clang. Dead silence. Then Claude's voice, rough as sandpaper. Demon? And just like that, lunch was ruined. Which was a shame because I hadn't finished that lobster. The word, demon, hit the room like a brick through a window. Baun slammed his staff on the floor so hard the echo bounced around the hall 3 times. His robe billowed like he was in a shampoo commercial. The old mage stared at me like I'd just told him the sky was falling, which, honestly, wasn't far off. Claude and Fanny knew demons from bedtime stories. The kind of thing you tell kids so they eat their vegetables. But seeing Baun, the guy who hadn't flinched once since I met him, looking like he'd seen a ghost, that told them everything they needed to know. Sir, you're certain? Demons? The ones from hell? Baun was on his feet, eyes locked on mine, practically begging me to say I was joking. Claude gripped his sword handle. Those are just bard tales to scare children. The Royal Archives don't even have half a reliable record. Baun stroked his mustache, pacing, connecting dots between the recent cultist attacks and demon activity. The more he thought about it, the more his face went white. Then his staff flashed, and he straight up teleported out of the room. A few seconds later, he popped back holding an ancient book. 3 months ago, I bought this on the black market. He tapped his staff on the pages, and the illustrations floated up into the air as 3D projections. Very cool presentation skills. Would have killed at a PowerPoint meeting. The book showed demons, red-skinned, massive deformed horns, faces ugly enough to curdle milk, all born with fire magic. Purple blood. Insanely strong even at low levels. And the worst part? Even if you kill them, they can apparently respawn in hell. Like a video game boss with infinite lives. The gates of hell were sealed 1,000 years ago, Bound explained, flipping pages with shaking hands. No demons have appeared since. Their cultists kept popping up, but nobody took them seriously, just treated them like regular crazy people. But the paintings in taverns show demons as cute little goblins, Fanny said, tracing a silly imp shape in the air. With her wand, Claude waved it away. Bound's voice dropped, because everyone who saw a real demon and tried to paint it ended up as bones on an altar. Then Bound projected a complex 6-pointed ritual circle onto the table. The same pattern they'd been finding at cult sites all over the city. My description matched the book perfectly. Cultists chant, then kill themselves, their blood flows into the circle, and the more blood that accumulates across multiple sites, the stronger the demon they can summon. Claude broke into a cold sweat. We've already found 7 completed ritual sites, but we destroyed the circles. Useless, Bound cut him off. Once the sacrifice is complete, destroying the circle does nothing. 7 sites. They might be summoning a high-level demon. If they succeed, Sir Oleg is right. Malaga is finished. Bang. Claude's iron fist cratered the table. Silverware flew everywhere. He grabbed a wine jug and chugged it, amber liquid running down his armor. Anderson, the guard captain, sprinted in, his lion badge bouncing with every step. Seal all gates. Curfew 3 hours early. Silver Moon Company stops all non-essential trade. Full martial law. Every soldier on alert. Search the entire city for cultists. Yes, SIR. Anderson was gone before the echo faded. Then Claude dropped to one knee in front of me. A city lord. Kneeling. Sir Oleg. Without your warning, Malaga would have been doomed. I offer my deepest gratitude. Fanny knelt right after. You saved me, and now you're saving the whole city. I don't even know how to repay you anymore. I pulled them both up fast because this was getting uncomfortable. Especially since I knew that without the system quest, I would have stood in that tree debating whether to help for another 5 minutes. Look, demons are my enemies too. Helping you helps me. But if you really want to repay me, I scratch my helmet. I need workers to fix my castle. It's been falling apart for centuries, and there's only one of me. Claude's eyes lit up like I'd given him a gift. Done. Once this is over, I'll send our chief engineer and every craftsman in the city to help you rebuild. Then Bound approached and dropped to both knees. Sir Oleg, I know this is shameless to ask after everything you've done, but we've never actually fought demons. You have. If the cultists get desperate and summon one, could you help us defeat it? So that village was called Devel? I said quietly, then smiled. I already told you, demons are my sworn enemies. Even if you didn't ask, I'd hunt them down anyway. I grabbed my helmet, locked it on, walked to the door, and picked up my giant sword. This time they can't hide. Behind me, Bound was charging his staff with magic, layering buff spells on himself like a walking light show. Claude came back from his room in full combat gear, sword, shield, and halberd. He patted his weapons like old friends. Time to fight together again, old buddies. Fanny pulled out her wand ready to join, but Claude stopped her. He hugged her through his armor. My little pearl, you just survived one disaster. I'm not putting you through another. The castle needs someone in charge, and you need to install the dragon crystal into the shield core. Her eyes dimmed, then blazed with determination. She nodded hard and walked away. I watched her go, then turned to join Claude and Bound. The 3 of us walked out together, me in front. The city had transformed into a war machine. Iron boots thundering everywhere, soldiers bursting in and out of buildings. The Silver Moon Company calming panicked merchants, adventurers from the tavern gearing up and following troops through the streets. Claude picked a small squad of soldiers and waved the rest back to searching. While we marched, I briefed them on everything from the Devel fight, demon attack patterns, the cultist mages binding chains, the fog, the fire magic, the purple blood. Claude and Bound took mental notes like they were cramming for the most important exam of their lives. We reached the source of the malice pretty quickly. Time to see if this city survives the night. The cultist hideout wasn't in some creepy cave or abandoned temple. It was in a regular neighborhood. Just a normal house on a normal street where normal people had been living not long ago. That's what made it worse. All those previous cult sites had been in remote locations, so everyone assumed that's where they'd always be. Nobody checked the suburbs. The closer we got, the stronger the malice screamed in my head. I raised my fist. Universal, stop, signal, nodded at Claude, and kicked the door in. Purple fireballs immediately flew at our faces. Welcome wagon. But Bound had already thrown up a magic shield, and the fireballs fizzled into nothing against it like bugs on a windshield. Magic is so convenient, I muttered, making a mental note. Learn magic. Sure, I could tank fireballs in my armor, but why eat punches when you can block them? What if something actually gets through one day? Claude charged in the moment the fireballs cleared, glowing with Bound's protective buffs like a holy knight action figure. Once he realized the magic shield could block demon spells, the man became fearless. His soldiers poured in behind him. And there they were, the demon cultists in the flesh. Red skin, twisted horns, definitely not human. Every other time the city had raided a cult site, they only found ash. First time seeing them alive. The cultists shrieked, a metal-on-metal screech that made several soldiers grab their heads in pain. Classic opening move. While the troops were stunned, the cultists fired more spells, all blocked by Bound's shield. Then purple chains erupted from the floor, the same ones I'd fought in Devel, wrapping around soldiers' limbs, sizzling, melting through skin. Screams everywhere. But Claude? Zero effect. The man was already mid-charge, halberd flashing. He skewered a cultist through the chest, lifted the body off the ground on the weapon like a flag, then threw the corpse into another cultist like a bowling ball. Strike. A third cultist launched a fireball. Claude blocked with his shield, and in the split second the explosion created, he hurled his halberd like a javelin. The cultist deflected it with a magic shield and started to jump backward, but Claude had already dropped his shield, drawn his sword, and closed the gap. One silver flash. The horned head spiraled through the air, trailing a red arc. I was watching all of this standing completely still. Here's the thing about having 91 agility. Everything looks like slow motion. It was like watching an action movie at 0.1x speed. I could see every detail, every sword angle, every footwork shift, every tactical decision Claude made. Cool. Yes. Exciting? Not really. It's hard to get pumped when the epic fight scene plays out like a PowerPoint slideshow. When the chains grabbed the soldiers, I almost stepped in, but I caught Bound's calm little smile and subtle nod. We've got this. That quiet confidence, the unspoken trust between two guys who'd been fighting together for decades, hit me differently. First time I'd really felt what teamwork looked like in this world. And Claude's fighting style. This man was an artist. Every move set up the next three. Every strike had a purpose. He could read the battlefield 10 steps ahead. Meanwhile, my combat strategy in Devel was basically run fast, hit hard, break everything. Zero technique. Pure caveman energy. If Claude and I had equal stats, he'd make me look like a toddler swinging a stick. Of course, technique matters less when you can literally one-shot anything, but still, I should probably learn actual combat skills, I thought. If nothing else, it'd help me stop accidentally demolishing buildings every time I swing. After the fight, Claude and Bound examined the ritual room behind the blown-out wall. Blood symbols still glowing on the floor. Human and animal corpses arranged in patterns. The full horror show. First time they'd seen an intact altar. Every other one had been ashes by the time they arrived. We got here just in time, Bound said, touching the still wet blood. The ritual hadn't started yet. Claude kicked aside a deformed corpse. Low-level cultists, but their coordination could trip up mid-tier fighters easily. Then I dragged my sword in. They both took 3 steps back. Instinct. I swung once. Boom. The altar, half the wall, and a good chunk of ceiling turned into flying rubble. Debris pinged off Bound's hastily raised barrier like hail. Do I need to pay for that? I asked, sword awkwardly stuck in the ground, scratching my helmet. Claude laughed behind his faceplate. These contaminated buildings were going to be demolished anyway. Bound waved away the dust cloud. Though perhaps a warning next time? These old bones can't handle surprises. They exchanged a look. I could practically read their minds. This kid fights like a bulldozer with no driver's license, and he's genuinely embarrassed about it. Definitely not a disguised ancient master. Just a ridiculously overpowered young guy who has no idea what he's doing. Sorry. Still working on controlling my strength, I mumbled. Claude clapped my shoulder plate. Clang. Don't worry about it. I can tell your combat experience is still developing. Once this crisis is over, boom. An explosion from across the city cut him off. Rubble rained from our already ruined ceiling. Other soldiers found another ritual site, Claude said, instantly switching to commander mode. No time for chat. Sir Oleg, you can sense where the cultists are hiding. Go ahead and root them out. Bound and I will handle the other locations and catch up. I nodded. We split up, walking in opposite directions through the settling dust. Time to go demon hunting. Solo this time. My favorite. After splitting from Claude and Bound, I followed the nastiest trail of demonic malice to a cluster of connected houses that looked like sleeping monsters in the twilight. Cozy neighborhood. Lovely curb appeal. Definitely full of demon cultists. I walked straight to the leftmost building and kicked the door. Not knocked, kicked. The door rocketed off its hinges, and the instant it flew, blood-red runes lit up all over the doorframe like a Christmas tree from hell. Turns out the cultists had been paying attention. When the city went into lockdown and one of their hideouts went quiet, they figured they were blown. So they booby-trapped the entrance. The entire building exploded into a pillar of fire, turning the house into a very aggressive firework. I walked out of the inferno without a scratch. Armor didn't even get warm. At this point my gear had tanked demon fire, bat venom, and my own cooking disasters. It could handle anything. But before I could move forward, magic walls erupted from the ground on all sides, boxing me in like a rat cage. Then spikes shot out of every wall surface, stabbing at me from every direction. The sound was incredible. Ding, 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 ding. Like someone throwing forks at a church bell. Sparks flew everywhere, but not a single spike pierced through. My armor just stood there taking it like a bored bouncer. I spread my arms and punched both walls simultaneously. The magic barriers shattered like sugar glass. The shockwave kept going, though. Way too far. By the time the dust settled, the entire street looked like someone had run a plow through it. Crap. Overdid it again. I shook out my wrists. Whatever. Kill first, apologize later. I could feel them in the next building over. Multiple sources of malice, all pointed at me like invisible spotlights. They knew I was coming. I walked up to the wall separating us and punched straight through it. My fist went through concrete, through whatever was on the other side. And, pop, the head of a cultist who'd been mid-chant exploded like a grape. Didn't even see him. Just felt the resistance change from wall to something softer, and then it was over. Kicked the rest of the wall in. The flying debris turned into a shotgun blast of stone fragments aimed at the room full of cultists. 6 of them raised magic shields simultaneously. These guys were coordinated, way better than the Devel amateurs. They launched spells from 6 different angles and tried the purple chain trick on my feet again. Too slow. Way too slow. I broke the sound barrier. The sonic boom alone knocked dust off every surface in a 2-block radius. When I reappeared, I was already standing among them. What? Where did he scatter? Too late. The first one lost everything below his ribcage before his upper half even realized it was falling. I drew the giant sword mid-movement and swung horizontally through the next 2. The blade didn't slice, it demolished. 2 bodies became 4 pieces, and the wall behind them gained a new doorway. The remaining 3 panicked. They layered magic shields and body enhancement spells, full body reinforcement, muscle density, the works. These were stronger cultists than anything I'd fought before. They could actually buff and defend simultaneously. Impressive. For about half a second, I appeared in front of one of them. His enhanced eyes could actually track me this time, which just meant he got to watch the sword come down in perfect, horrifying clarity. Too fast, he thought. Last thought he ever had. The final 2 were different. Different robes, higher rank. They saw their buddies get shredded and immediately pulled out daggers pulsing with thick, demonic energy. Instead of fighting me, they aimed the blades at their own hearts, trying to sacrifice themselves to complete whatever ritual quota they needed. Not happening. I flickered. The giant sword came down with the weight of a mountain. Both of them turned into paste before the daggers reached their chests. Self-sacrifice denied. I stood there breathing steadily, scanning the area. Quest done? Nope. The malice was still there, still crawling around the air like invisible smoke. Then the paste started moving. The two high-ranking cultists' eyed just liquefied. Their remains began trembling, bubbling, flowing upward like melting wax in reverse. The puddles of meat merged, climbing higher, forming a shape. A tall shape. A very tall shape. I swung my sword through it. The blade passed clean through like cutting fog, hit the rubble behind it, and demolished another wall segment. 0 damage to the forming thing. I jumped back and created distance. Smart move, because the shape was solidifying fast. Features sharpening, limbs growing, horns twisting out of its skull like corkscrews made of bone. Then it roared. The sound hit me like a physical force. Remaining walls toppled. The air itself bent from the heat of its breath. Standing in front of me was a full-blown goat-horned demon, massive, red-skinned, radiating hatred so thick I could taste it. This wasn't a lesser demon or a cultist playing dress-up. This was the real deal. Fire churned in its right palm, then solidified into a weapon, a jagged blade with screaming human skulls hanging from the hilt. An abomination sword. The souls trapped in it were literally wailing. I could hear them. Every single one. The demon charged. Fast. Way faster than anything its size should move. It brought the skull blade down on my head with enough force to split a building in half. I blocked with my giant sword. The impact cracked the earth beneath my feet in a spiderweb pattern 6 meters wide. My boots sank into the ground. I could feel the agony of those trapped souls vibrating through my blade. Their screams rattled my teeth. And the demon wasn't done. While our swords were locked, its left hand was already wrapped in purple-red fire. The surrounding debris spontaneously combusted from the heat alone. It slammed that burning fist directly into my chest plate. Boom. The explosion flattened every remaining structure in the area. Soldiers who'd been running toward the noise froze mid-step, paralyzed by the sight of an actual demon from hell standing in the smoking crater. The demon noticed them. Its eyes lit up with the kind of excitement a cat gets when it spots a mouse. Fresh prey. Soft, squishy, non-armored prey. Then it heard something behind it. Turned around. I was standing there. Completely fine. Armor intact. Not even breathing hard. You're the strongest thing I've fought so far, I said, rolling my wrist casually. If Claude or Bound had taken that hit, they'd probably be dead. But compared to what you just did to me, that bat monster that broke into my castle months ago was scarier. At least IT gave me a real scare. The demon's pupils shrank to pinpoints. I'd just called it weaker than a bat. To its face. It screamed in rage, flames erupting along its blade, and brought the abomination's sword down with everything it had. White flash. I was behind it. The fire on its blade went out. The weapon itself crumbled to dust. Then the demon's body split apart along a dozen purple lines that appeared simultaneously, like someone had drawn on it with a razor. It came apart in chunks, burning, disintegrating before the pieces hit the ground. But in that last instant, as the demon's severed head tumbled through the air, its eyes locked onto my chest plate, onto the crest of House Herman. I saw its pupils dilate. Recognition. Terror. Something ancient and primal that went beyond this one demon's existence. Then it was ash. The soldiers erupted in cheers behind me. I didn't stay to wave. I was already sprinting toward the next source of malice. Meanwhile, and I only found this out later, Claude and Bound were having their own party across town. They'd found another ritual site, rescued wounded soldiers, and set up a textbook tactical formation. Shield wall up front, archers and mages in the back, Bound providing lightning support from above. They demolished the cultists' building with coordinated volleys and cleaned up the survivors efficiently. Then their demon showed up. Smaller than mine, no special weapon, but still way beyond anything a normal soldier could handle. Swords bounced off its skin like toys. Bound blinded it with a lightning bolt to the eye. Claude used the opening to drive his halberd into the demon's neck, but it didn't go deep enough for a kill shot. The demon swiped its claws. Claude kicked off its chest and backflipped away, pulling the halberd free. Purple blood sprayed everywhere, but the demon barely flinched. Claude touched the lion crest on his armor, slammed his fist against it like he was making a promise, and charged back in. His entire army followed with a battle cry, spreading out to surround the demon while ranged fighters kept it pinned. They were fighting smart. Fighting together. fighting like people who had something to protect. I hoped they'd be okay, because I had 3 more malice signatures blinking in my head like angry GPS markers, and every one of them was getting stronger. While I was off speed blitzing through demon cultists and turning a goat horn nightmare into confetti, Claude and Bound were having their own epic showdown across town. I only got the full story later, but honestly, those two were impressive. Their demon was smaller than mine. No fancy skull sword, no dramatic entrance speech, but it was still a full-blown hellspawn that could shrug off regular weapons like mosquito bites. Swords bounced off its skin making sparks, but 0 damage. The kind of enemy that makes normal soldiers rethink their career choices real fast. But Claude's army wasn't normal. They fought like they'd been drilling for this their entire lives. The frontline soldiers charged at the demon, then stopped dead right in front of it. The demon's momentum carried it forward, stumbling, and the flanking squad unleashed a blizzard of steel from the side. Each individual hit was basically a scratch, but dozens of blades hammering the same spot over and over finally tore through the demon's skin. Death by 1,000 cuts. Literally. The demon roared and swept its claws. The soldiers pulled back like a retreating wave, perfectly timed, not a single casualty, and another squad hit from the opposite direction. They were playing hot potato with the demon and winning. Back and forth, keeping it off balance, never letting it focus on one group long enough to kill anyone. Meanwhile, Bound was floating in the air. Yes, floating. Eyes closed, robes whipping in magical wind, staff raised overhead blazing with light, so bright it hurt to look at. The mages behind him were channeling all their power into his staff, like he was a magical battery being supercharged. The old man was cooking up something massive. The demon felt it. Even hellspawn have survival instincts. It screamed so hard it knocked the surrounding soldiers back, then charged straight at Bound like a freight train aimed at a floating old man. "Don't let it through," Claude roared. And then he did something I didn't know he could do. He held his halberd across his chest, gripped tight, and his entire body erupted in crimson light. Not magic in the traditional sense, more like he was burning his own life force as fuel. Red afterimages trailed behind his movements. He became a comet. He was fast, way faster than before. The demon's claw swipe hadn't even reached him when Claude was already inside its guard, halberd driving deep into its chest. The impact knocked the demon back 2 full steps. Claude's red aura flowed into the weapon, pushing it deeper. Sqlch. Half the halberd buried in demon flesh. But it wasn't enough for a kill. The demon grabbed the halberd shaft with one claw and raised the other to smash Claude into paste. Golden chains exploded from the ground. Bound's work, even while charging his ultimate attack, and locked the demon's wrist in place. Then the soldiers charged with spears. All of them, aiming for the wound Claude had made. They drove their weapons into that single opening and pushed, screaming in unison, shoving the massive demon backward by sheer force of will and numbers. Grown men against a creature from hell, and they were moving it. Teamwork. Up above, Bound's light had compressed into something terrifying. A miniature sun sitting on top of his staff, collapsing inward, getting denser and brighter. His bloodshot eyes snapped open. Claude kicked off the demon's chest, backflipped away. The soldiers scattered like a choreographed dance troupe. Everyone knew the signal. Bound swung his staff. The sunball elongated into a massive spear of pure holy light, radiant, blinding, humming with enough energy to level a building. It flew straight and true, punching directly into the wound Claude had carved open. The demon screamed. Light erupted from inside its body like cracks in a shell. Then it detonated from within. The mage squad threw up barriers instantly, containing the blast radius. Chunks of burning demons scattered and disintegrated before they could land. Claude planted his halberd in the ground with a triumphant bang. "We won." The cheering was thunderous. Bound smiled, then promptly fell out of the sky. Claude caught him around the waist like they'd rehearsed this exact scenario before. "Still got fight in you, old friend?" Claude shoved a mana potion at Bound's lips. "I'm not as old as you," Bound grumbled, drinking. "But I'm completely drained. More importantly, you used physical enhancement again after all these years. Can your body handle it?" Before Claude could answer, a building collapsed half a city away. "My building. My handiwork." The victory cheers cut off instantly as everyone heard the boom echo across rooftops. Sounds like Sir Oleg is finishing up over there. Claude squinted at the rising pillar of smoke and dust, and has demolished another half-block in the process. Well, he asked the expert we invited, Bound wheezed, downing another mana potion and still looking wobbly. Let's catch up. My mana should recover a bit by the time we get there. Hope you can walk without me holding you up by then. Claude raised his voice. All soldiers, anyone not injured, move toward Sir Oleg's position. Every able-bodied fighter took off running toward the explosions. Toward me. Because apparently my combat style is so recognizable, you can navigate by the property damage. When Claude's group reached the intersection where we'd originally split up, they ran into a cluster of soldiers stumbling toward them, leaning on each other, wide-eyed and babbling. These guys were so excited they were practically vibrating. The other soldiers had to physically hold them back until they calmed down enough to speak coherently. Claude walked up to them. What happened? Why are you all so worked up? The soldiers tripped over each other trying to explain. Sir, a monster. We encountered a monster. Enormous, bigger than anything. We were searching nearby, heard explosions, went to investigate. Buildings were collapsed everywhere. Then, this thing rose from the rubble. Red skin, giant horns, wrapped in flames, holding a terrifying blade in one hand and purple fire in the other. Claude's face went tight. That was a demon. Our primary target. Where is it now? The soldier swallowed hard. It was almost as big as a house, sir. Claude and Bound exchanged a look. Even bigger than the one we fought, Bound muttered. The soldier continued, voice shaking but now with something closer to awe than fear. It looked at us. We couldn't move, couldn't breathe. I thought we were dead. All of us thought we were dead. Then we heard a voice behind it. One voice. And in the time it takes to blink, the demon was in pieces. Cut apart like it was nothing. He paused, still processing what he'd seen. It was your guest, sir. The knight. He cut that thing apart before any of us even understood what was happening. Our injuries are from the debris, not the fight. After the demon burned away, he just ran off that direction. The soldier pointed. We can still hear explosions from over there. Claude sent them to the medical camp with healers, then stood there for a moment, staring in the direction the soldier had pointed. No matter how many times I learn about Sir Oleg's strength, he said quietly, gripping his halberd, it never stops being terrifying. While we struggled against one demon with our entire force, he destroyed a stronger one by himself, plus cleared even more cultists. And he's still going. He exhaled. We can't fall behind. Move. They ran toward me. By the time they arrived, I was standing in yet another landscape of rubble, demon blood evaporating off my sword in purple steam. I'd cleared another cultist nest after the big demon fight. Routine work at this point. Kick wall, find bad guys, introduce them to gravity and blunt force trauma. I checked my malice radar. Only one signal left. The biggest one. The angriest one. The one that had been pulsing in the back of my skull like a migraine with murderous intent. Claude's steel boots crunched through debris as he approached, helmet under his arm, face lined with exhaustion and gratitude. This crisis. We truly cannot thank you enough, Sir Oleg. Don't mention it. This is kind of my specialty. I nodded toward the last direction. Good timing, though. I can sense one more location. The final one. Clear that out, and this should be over. Claude straightened up, halberd ready. Bound adjusted his grip on his staff, looking less shaky now. The soldiers behind them tightened their formations. One more nest. One more fight. Then maybe, I could finally get some sleep. I took point and led them toward the last altar. The malice ahead was thick enough to taste. Whatever was waiting for us there, it was going to be the worst one yet. But I had a demon-slaying sword, a city lord who could go super cyan red, a wizard who could shoot light spears from the sky, and about 50 very angry soldiers who'd just killed their first demon and were hungry for seconds. Let's finish this. We reached the last ritual site, and immediately something felt wrong. There'd been a fight here already. Blood splattered everywhere, broken weapons scattered across the ground, scorch marks on walls. But no bodies. Not a single corpse. Where do you have a battle with 0 casualties left behind? You don't. Unless someone collected them. I raised my fist to stop everyone and went ahead alone. The malice was concentrated, thick, pulsing like a heartbeat made of pure hatred. I approached the door, lifted my foot to kick it in, my signature move at this point. I should trademark it, but stopped. Something was coming from the other side, moving toward me. I stepped back. The door opened on its own. Slowly, dramatically, like whoever was inside had been rehearsing this entrance. Out walked a cultist, but not like the others. This one wore the same fancy robes as the two high-rankers whose bodies had merged into that goat demon earlier, except his head had actual demon horns growing out of it. Not a costume. Real, dark red, blood-gleaming horns poking through his hood. This guy was half-converted. The boss cultist. The one running the whole show. "Welcome, esteemed guests," he said, and his voice was like someone dragging a rusty nail across a chalkboard made of other, smaller chalkboards. "We've been expecting you." He looked past me, like I was furniture, and stared directly at Claude. "Lord Claude, we've wanted to meet you for so long. Unfortunately, circumstances prevented us until now. Maggots don't get to talk to me." Claude's halberd scraped the ground, throwing sparks. "Rats hiding in sewers. Rotting corpse meat is cleaner than you." I like Claude's trash talk. Direct. Efficient. No wasted words. The cultist leader didn't even flinch. Instead, he smiled. And when I say smiled, I mean his mouth split open almost to his ears, dripping thick purple-black drool like a broken faucet. "Ha ha ha. No need for anger, Lord Claude. Under different circumstances, we might have had a lovely conversation. Oh, I almost forgot. I brought you a gift." He clapped his hands. Four robed figures dragged something out from behind him. Something human-shaped. Something covered in so much blood it was barely recognizable as a person. It was Anderson, the guard captain, the veteran who'd knelt before me at the city gates. The man who'd protected Fanny since she was a child. His arms and legs had been hacked off. His body was covered in torture marks, burns, cuts, things I don't want to describe. He was barely alive, hanging on by sheer stubbornness and nothing else. Claude's halberd hit the ground with a clang that echoed through the ruins. Then he lost it. "Anderson, you filthy animals, you deserve to die," he charged. Full speed. No plan, no formation, no tactics, just raw, blind fury. Bound tried to grab him, but his magic reserves were too low. Claude ripped free instantly. "Claude, calm down," Bound screamed after him. "They're provoking you on purpose." It's a trap, but Claude couldn't hear anything over the blood pounding in his ears. He reached the cultist leader and thrust his halberd straight at the monster's heart. The leader didn't dodge, didn't even try. He just grinned. "I thought a noble lord would have better self-control," he sneered. "But you're just like your guard captain. See someone you care about suffer, and you lose all reason. Ha ha ha. Become the vessel for our god's divine guardian." He pulled out a ritual dagger. The same kind of sacrificial blade the other cultists had tried to stab into their own hearts. Except this one was aimed at Claude. I moved. One instant I was 20 meters back. The next I was between them. My right hand caught the leader's dagger hand and crushed it. Bones, fingers, blade handle, all of it ground to powder in my grip. He shrieked like a boiling kettle. With my left hand, I open-palmed Claude in the chest and launched him backward through the air, sending him tumbling across the rubble. "Did everyone forget I was here?" I said. But the leader was laughing through his pain. "We were waiting for you." His crushed hand suddenly melted. Not bled. Melted. Liquid flesh flowing up my arm like living tar, gluing my right hand in place. His left hand produced another ritual dagger from nowhere. At the same time, magic chains erupted from the ground and locked my other arm. The remaining cultists rushed forward from all sides, daggers raised, converging on me like a murder of crows. "Shoot! Shoot now!" Bound screamed, voice cracking with terror. Arrows flew. Too late. Way too late. Claude hit the ground hard, dust mushrooming around him. Through the haze, he watched helplessly as multiple ritual daggers plunged toward me simultaneously. His face twisted with guilt. His loss of control had led me into this trap. This was his fault. Multiple blades stabbed into me. Claude squeezed his eyes shut. The cultist leader's grin stretched impossibly wide. "Such a powerful human. Such a magnificent body. Our God will surely send the mightiest divine guardian to inhabit this vessel. Come, come. Let our God's glory descend upon." Clang. Clang. Clang, clang, clang. Metal on metal. The sweetest sound in the world. The leader's face fell apart. Not literally this time, just his expression. He looked down. Every single ritual dagger had bounced off my armor. The cursed blades that were supposed to penetrate anything, blessed by their demon god to pierce any material, any enchantment, any defense, had bounced off my chest plate like plastic toys hitting a bank vault. Impossible, he screeched, stabbing again. Clang. Again. Clang. These are blessed by our god. They have the power to penetrate everything. This is impossible. Impossible. I let him stab me a few more times just to really drive the point home. Each dagger bounced off with a cheerful little ting. You done? Cool. My turn. I ripped free of the chains with my left arm, grabbed my giant sword, and swung one-handed. The shockwave alone split every cultist, their altar, and the entire building behind them clean in half. Bricks flew like rain. The blast wave sent debris in every direction. Claude, still on the ground, leaped up and caught the broken body of Anderson as it was flung into the air by the shockwave. He immediately started pouring healing potions down the man's throat, hands shaking. I shook the melted flesh goo off my right hand, disgusting, like hot glue mixed with raw meat, and walked toward the leader's remains. He'd been split in two by the sword wind, but was somehow still alive. Demon blood apparently makes you very hard to kill. He glared up at me with pure, concentrated hatred. Purple blood bubbling from his mouth with every word. You. Cough, cough. It's all your fault. Cough. You weren't supposed to be here. If not for you, we would have captured Claude's daughter and used her to control him. Cough, cough. If not for you, the cultists outside the city would have drawn away the soldiers. If not for you, while Claude fought one divine guardian, the other would have completed all the sacrifices. If not for you, he was literally coughing up his entire evil plan, screaming it at me like I'd personally ruined his birthday party. Which, technically, I had. Sounds like a skill issue, I said. Get good or get lost, he laughed. Laughed. Blood spraying everywhere. You think you've won? Cough, cough. The ritual is incomplete. The vessel is weak. Cough. But it's enough. His voice rose to a scream. Descend, mighty divine guardian. Your faithful servant offers everything. God, your followers give their all. He died mid-sentence. Just stopped. Eyes went empty. My gut dropped. The quest notification was still active. Still incomplete. Vessel. He said vessel. The body. A weak body, but enough to Anderson. Get away from Anderson, I roared at Claude. The demon is going to use his body. Move. Now. Every dead cultist across the entire battlefield, every corpse, every pile of ash, every splattered remains from every site we'd cleared tonight, began dissolving into streams of blood-red energy. Rivers of crimson light flew through the air from all directions, all converging on one point. On Anderson. Everyone scrambled backward. Soldiers dove away. Bound threw himself clear. Everyone except Claude. Claude was still holding Anderson. Still pouring potions. Still refusing to let go. Bound grabbed his shoulder. Let go, Claude. Claude shook him off. Wouldn't move. Couldn't move. 40 years of loyalty pinning him to the spot. Then Anderson's remaining eye opened. The right one. The only one that wasn't a bloody socket. The pupil was cloudy, fading, but for one brief moment it focused. Found Claude's face. My lord. Anderson's voice was barely a whisper, a dying man's last breath-given sound. Please go. I'm sorry. I've disappointed you. Claude broke. The unshakable lord of Malaga, the man who'd stared down demons without blinking. He started crying. Right there. Holding his oldest friend in the middle of a war zone. No. You don't get to leave. His voice cracked like glass. You followed me for almost 30 years. You promised you'd follow me until death. You said that. You said that. He was choking on his own words now. And Fanny, you raised her too. I was always busy with the city, always working, and you were the one there for her. If you leave, how heartbroken will she be? How could I ever be disappointed in you? The old friends who started this journey with me, there are almost none left. You don't get to go. Purple-black veins started crawling across Anderson's skin like cracks in ice. The blood energy streams were reaching him, seeping in. Bound's teleportation spell fired, silver light shoving Claude back by force. And in that final second, Anderson, a man with zero magical talent, a pure warrior his entire life, somehow cast a spell. He bit through his own tongue, and the pain and blood fueled something raw and desperate. A burst of force that pushed Claude away. Anderson screamed his last words at the sky. Tell the young lady I'm sorry. I can't be by her side anymore. And forgive me, my lord. I can't follow you any further. Sir Oleg, please kill me quickly. Don't let me become a disaster." Then his eyes went blank. The consciousness that was Anderson, the loyal soldier, the surrogate uncle, the man who knelt in the dirt to thank me at the city gates, was gone. The blood energy swallowed him whole. His body began to swell, to inflate, to transform. Flesh twisted and expanded until what had been a broken human body was now a massive, pulsating egg of blood and meat, hovering above the rubble. A cocoon. Something was growing inside it. Something terrible. The wailing of 1,000 dead souls filled the air from every direction. Claude stared at the blood egg with empty eyes. Then his fist slammed into his own chest plate so hard the metal dented inward. His scream tore through the night. All forces, attack, and I stood there, gripping my sword, watching a good man get turned into a demon egg, and made myself a promise. Whatever hatches out of that thing, I'm putting it down. For Anderson, for the village, for every soul these monsters consumed. No more holding back. The soldiers went absolutely berserk on that blood egg. Swords, spears, arrows, magic, everything they had, all at once, nonstop. And it did nothing. Every slash healed instantly. Every spell got absorbed like the egg was drinking it. The wounds closed before the blades even pulled away. The thing was literally eating our attacks for breakfast and using them as fuel to grow faster. Thump thump, thump thump. It had a heartbeat now. A massive, room-shaking pulse that made the rubble dance with every beat. Blood vessel patterns glowed across its surface like some kind of disgusting nightlight. Everyone could see the shape inside getting bigger, twisting, forming limbs and horns and things that should not exist. And we were helping it by attacking. I tried my sword. The blade went straight through the egg like cutting smoke. Same thing that happened when the goat demon was forming earlier. The egg existed in some halfway dimension, partially in reality and partially somewhere else. It could choose to be solid when it wanted to absorb energy, and intangible when we tried to hurt it. Completely unfair game mechanics. No amount of hitting would work until whatever was inside finished cooking and fully entered our reality. "Fall back," I shouted, body-checking a couple of stubborn soldiers who refused to stop swinging. My sword split the ground in front of them as a warning. Cracks spreading all the way to the egg's base, which promptly healed itself. Even damaging the ground around it was pointless. The stored energy repaired everything automatically. "Our attacks aren't just failing," I muttered, gripping my sword handle. "They're literally making it stronger and helping it heal." Then I heard arguing behind me. Claude had gone full berserker mode again. His eyes were bloodshot, veins bulging, and that crimson body enhancement aura was firing up across his body for the second time tonight. He was going to charge the egg and try to destroy it through sheer willpower. The same technique that Bound had warned could kill him because his body was too old to handle it. "Claude, are you insane?" Bound grabbed his arm, digging fingers into the gaps of his armor. "Your body can't take this. You're not the young man you used to be. Stop forcing magic through yourself." Blood was already leaking from the corners of Claude's mouth. He didn't stop. "I know. But if we don't destroy this thing before it hatches, more people will die. I can't just stand here and watch. Enough." I threw my giant sword. It spun through the air and slammed into the ground half an inch in front of Claude's face, close enough to shave his eyebrows. The impact shockwave cut through his crimson aura and forced his body to stop mid-charge. I was at his side in a blink, grabbed his trembling shoulder plate, looked him dead in the eyes through my visor. Dying heroically doesn't suit a commander, and it definitely doesn't suit a father. My voice came out harder than I intended. "Your daughter already lost 2 people she loved tonight. You want to make it 3? Think about Fanny. Calm down." Then I slapped him. I used the absolute minimum force I could manage. The gentlest, most carefully controlled slap I'd ever delivered in my life. His helmet rocketed off his head and bounced across the ground like a tin can. Okay, so my minimum force needs work. Claude hit the ground flat on his back, staring up at the sky, and something changed in his eyes. The blind rage drained away. For a moment, he seemed to see something up there, something nobody else could see. His expression softened. His breathing slowed. Whatever he saw, whoever he saw, brought him back from the edge. I reached down and pulled him to his feet. "Sorry about that. I know it wasn't my place to slap a lord across the face. But you weren't listening. Bound stormed over and punched Claude in the back so hard his armor rang like a gong. You old fool. If you want to die, at least let me go first. What am I supposed to tell Fanny? Your dad saw Anderson die, and then threw his life away like an idiot charging at an invincible egg? Is that what you want me to say? Claude looked at Bound's furious, worried face. Looked at the young soldiers around him. Kids, some of them, gripping their weapons with shaking hands, but still waiting for his orders. Still trusting him. Then he looked toward the castle keep, where the first rays of dawn were piercing through the clouds, where Fanny was waiting. The silence stretched. Only the wet, rhythmic thump of the blood egg filled the gap. Finally Claude spoke. Sorry, I worried everyone. He closed his eyes, exhaled a lifetime of grief in one breath. I'm getting old. When he opened them again, the Lord was back. Not the raging berserker, the leader. He unclasped the lion medallion from his chest and held it out to me. Sir Oleg, you're the only expert on these creatures we have. I'm placing full command authority in your hands. Malaga's fate is yours. I literally pointed at myself in confusion. Me? Command? I've never led anything. I can't be responsible for soldiers' lives. I've never even had a team before. I've been alone in a castle talking to spiders for months. I can't. Claude just smiled at me. Didn't argue. Didn't explain. Just stood there with that calm, trusting expression. Fine. I sighed so hard my visor fogged up. I have a plan. It's not a great plan. It's barely a plan. But it's what I've got. I turned to address everyone. Felt deeply weird giving orders to actual military professionals while being a former shut-in gamer who'd learned combat by punching rocks. First, and most important, none of you can participate in this fight directly. Your attacks feed the egg, and whatever comes out of it will be way beyond what you can handle. I need everyone to pull back, as far as possible. Take any civilians hiding nearby with you. Get them all clear, deep breath. Second, position your ranged units. Archers, siege weapons, mages, at maximum distance. Don't fire unless I signal, or unless things look really, really bad. Give me space. Give me room to go absolutely nuts without worrying about friendly fire. Because, I looked back at the pulsing egg. I am going to need a lot of room. Claude actually laughed at that. A real laugh, not a bitter one. Then he barked orders, and the entire army mobilized. Soldiers streamed away from the egg in organized waves, sweeping through nearby buildings to grab cowering civilians, carrying the wounded, setting up ranged positions on distant rooftops and towers. Siege engineers started wheeling ballistas and trebuchets into firing lines. Claude looked at me one last time, nodded, then leaned on Bound and walked away. Within minutes, the area was cleared. Just me, some rubble, and a giant throbbing meat egg about to birth a nightmare. The instant the army's footsteps faded, the egg went crazy. The heartbeat doubled, tripled, quadrupled in speed. The surface bulged outward in horrible shapes. A claw here, a horn there, something pressing against the membrane from inside, desperate to get out. The cocoon was about to pop. I stomped the ground hard enough to crack it, swung my sword behind me in a two-handed grip, and waited. Every muscle coiled, every sense focused. The malice radiating from this thing was on a completely different level from everything before. This wasn't a lesser demon. This wasn't even a regular high-level demon. This was something else. The egg exploded. Blood and membrane flew in every direction. And from inside rose the biggest, most terrifying thing I'd ever seen in either of my lives. Dark crimson skin covered in glowing lava vein patterns. Horns curving backward like scythes, so tall they scratched the clouds. This thing wasn't just bigger than the goat demon. It was in a completely different weight class. The goat demon had been almost as tall as a house. This one was bigger than a house. Significantly bigger. Towering over buildings, bigger. Casting a shadow over an entire city block, bigger. It opened its eyes, horizontal pupils, like a goat's but stretched across eyeballs the size of wagon wheels, and looked around with an almost innocent curiosity, like a newborn seeing the world for the first time. Then it looked up, opened its mouth, and roared. The shockwave flattened every remaining ruin in a 100-meter radius. The sky changed color, daylight dimming, clouds turning blood red, as if reality itself was protesting this thing's existence. The air tasted like copper and burning. From far away, I could feel Claude's army watching. I must have looked like an ant standing in front of a volcano. Some soldiers were swallowing nervously, bodies shaking. Some were writing letters, last words to families. Some knelt and prayed. Others quietly checked their weapons one final time, accepting whatever came next. Claude and Bound stared from their position, tense as bowstrings. They believed in me. They had to believe in me, because there was literally no other option. And somewhere in the castle keep, Fanny was watching through magically enhanced vision. She could see the siege crews preparing their weapons at maximum range, and beyond them, far in the distance, one tiny armored figure standing alone before a monster that blocked out the sky. She closed her eyes, whispered a prayer, then snapped them open, remembered something, and sprinted back into the keep. I stood perfectly still, waiting. The demon stared down at me. I stared up at it. Half a minute of silence. Two apex predators sizing each other up. The demon wanted to know what I was. I wanted to know when it would fully solidify into reality so my sword could actually touch it. Warning, high-level demon fully materialized. There it is. The demon moved first. Its massive form blurred, way too fast for something that big. Claws tearing through the air toward me, each finger longer than I was tall. I shifted my blade by a fraction of a degree. When the claws reached me, my sword was already in motion. Like thunder. Clang. My sword met his claws, and the sound that came out was like God slamming a door. The shockwave turned the ground into a dust tornado. For a second, nobody could see anything. When the dust settled, the scoreboard was clear. The demon's left arm was bent backward at an angle that made my stomach flip, purple blood oozing from the break. My armor? Not a scratch, not a dent, not even a smudge. I'd been pushed back. My boots had carved 2 trenches in the ground from the impact. But I was standing, undamaged, and honestly a little disappointed. The army behind me erupted. The cheer hit me like a physical wall of sound. Claude raised his command flag, voice cracking with emotion. Warriors of Malaga. Look, our hero has broken the demon's claws. He swung the flag so hard it whistled. Now crush this bastard into dust. Siege weapons fired. Dozens of burning rocks and steel-tipped bolts screamed across the sky and hammered into the demon like a meteor shower. The giant stones made it stumble backward, and a few armor-piercing bolts sank deep into its red skin. But the demon barely noticed. It was too busy staring at its own broken arm. So this is the prophesied nemesis? Its voice rumbled like an earthquake having a bad day. Then, crack, 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 its arm straightened itself out, bones snapping back into place like they were spring-loaded. Full regeneration. In seconds. If this is all you offer, you hardly qualify as our destined enemy. Oh good, it could talk. And it was arrogant. My favorite combination. Remember the name that shall cast you into the eternal abyss, it declared, spreading its massive arms like it was introducing itself at a dinner party. I am the blood marrow tyrant. Kalonzos, cool name, I said. Won't save you. Our weapons clashed. Every hit sent cracks racing 30 feet across the ground. Kalonzos was fast for something the size of a building. His bone axe moved in patterns I could barely track. Vertical cleaves aimed at splitting me skull to pelvis, sneaky low sweeps trying to take my legs, feints that shifted into real attacks mid-swing. The guy had actual combat technique, not just brute force. But here's the thing, he never landed a single hit. Not one. Every axe swing met my sword. Every trick got read. Every feint got called. I blocked everything. I was retreating, though, step by step, giving ground with each exchange. Not because I had to, because I was thinking. This demon was strong. Absolutely. His regeneration was insane. But his raw offensive power? I'd felt worse from that bat that broke into my castle months ago. Kalonzos had fancy moves and terrifying aesthetics. But in terms of pure, can you actually hurt me, danger? He was inside my handling range. So why was I playing defense? Partly to study his patterns. Claude's fighting style had taught me that rushing in like a bulldozer wasn't always optimal. Sometimes you learn more by watching. And partly because something he'd said caught my attention. Prophesied nemesis. Destined enemy. He recognized the Herman bloodline. The crest on my armor meant something to demons on a fundamental level. This wasn't random. There was history here, deep history, and Kalonzos was practically narrating it for me. Coward, Kalonzos roared, mistaking my tactical patience for weakness. His horizontal pupils blazed with contempt. Does the last Herman hide inside his iron shell? Die here with your pathetic prophecy. He leaped backward, His hooves cratered the ground on landing, and his axe burst into purple flames so intense the surrounding rubble melted into glowing red puddles. The heat distortion made the air shimmer and warp. Even Claude, watching from hundreds of meters away, had to shield his face behind his arm, and that was just the residual energy. The leftovers. The splash zone. From their distant vantage point, the soldiers watched me getting pushed back step after step by a flaming demon 3 times my height, and they were losing it. Sir Oleg, you can do it. Don't lose. You're our hero. He'll win. He has to win. Claude and Bound. Though, those 2 old foxes noticed what nobody else did. Through the entire exchange, I hadn't taken a single clean hit. Every attack was blocked or deflected. The demon looked dominant, but it wasn't actually winning. I was choosing to retreat. The question was why. Then Colonzo's went nuclear. His flaming axe warped the space around it, literally bent the air, and his massive body flickered behind me. Teleportation? No, just raw speed. The axe came down on my back wrapped in enough purple hellfire to melt a castle. Die. The flame pillar that erupted punched through the clouds. The explosion turned night into day for a split second, then plunged everything into darkness. The shockwave knocked soldiers off their feet half a city away. Dust and debris mushroomed into the sky like a volcanic eruption. When it cleared, there was a crater where I'd been standing. A massive crater, deep enough that you couldn't see the bottom. Just a smoking hole in the earth like a meteor had hit. Silence. Total, horrifying silence. Then the screaming started. He's gone. A soldier collapsed to his knees. We lost. It's over. Everything's over. Our homes, our families, everything. Another one dropped his weapon like it weighed 1,000 pounds. The clatter of abandoned steel spread through the ranks like a disease. Colonzo's turned away from the crater and faced the army. His grin was obscene, a canyon of teeth splitting his massive face. Prepare for the coming of my kind, little piggies. Tremble. Flee. Let your brains decorate our arrival ceremony. We shall. Meanwhile, soldiers were breaking down everywhere. Some wrote final letters with trembling hands. Some prayed. One guy, I later learned his name was Orvi, threw his spear on the ground and sat there shaking, completely hollow. Claude walked over to him. Knelt down. I remember you, Orvi. That spear you just threw away. Anderson gave it to you. After that battle where everyone else died and you kept fighting with broken armor and a snapped blade, biting chunks out of the enemy because you had nothing left to swing. Anderson honored your spirit by giving you his own weapon. And now you drop it. Orvi picked up the spear with shaking hands. But we don't have any chance of winning. Claude stood up and laughed. Not bitterly, genuinely, loudly, almost maniacally. Huh. Did our ancestors have a chance when they fought monster hordes with wooden clubs and rocks? He raised his halberd and pointed it at Colonzo's distant silhouette. As long as one person from Malaga holds a weapon, this is human territory. The soldiers' morale steadied. Not soared, steadied. They gripped their weapons again, straightened their backs. But Claude knew the truth. Courage wouldn't kill a demon. All the bravery in the world wouldn't scratch that regenerating red skin. He looked one last time at the castle keep, where a light still burned in Fanny's window. He dropped his visor, locked eyes with Bound through the slit. They both understood. This was the end. They were going to charge a demon they couldn't hurt and die fighting because that's what warriors do. Follow me into the final battle, Claude roared. The army screamed back with everything they had left. Colonzo sneered at the approaching army like a cat watching ants march toward it. How amusing. Insects struggling too. A sound cut him off. A deep, resonant HUMM from behind him. From the crater. From the impossible hole his ultimate attack had carved into the earth. He spun around. His horizontal pupils dilated. Something was coming up. A spinning object erupted from the crater, trailing a cone of compressed air. My giant sword, hurled with so much force it arrived faster than sound. Colonzo's barely got his axe up in time. The collision sprayed sparks like a welding torch, but the force behind it. His eyes went wide. His arms shook. His axe was batted aside like a toy. The sword kept going and slammed into his chest. His ribcage caved in. The demon's enormous body launched backward like it had been hit by a freight train. He flew. Actually flew, smashing through building after building, his body carving a trench through the city block before finally stopping in a pile of rubble 200 meters away. My sword buried itself in the ground at the crater's edge, the impact sending spiderweb cracks 10 meters in every direction. Cough. Colonzo's vomited purple blood, his caved-in chest slowly rebuilding itself as he stared at the crater with an expression I'd never seen on a demon before. Fear. I climbed out of the hole. Calmly. Slowly. Like I was stepping out of a swimming pool after a casual dip. Completely unharmed. Armor perfect. Not a burn mark. Not a scrape. Nothing. Colonzo's eyes went so wide his pupils nearly disappeared. This is impossible. Even your ancestor would have been wounded by that attack. How did you? Your attack. I interrupted, brushing dust off my shoulder plate. Let's talk about that. In terms of raw power, sure, it was the strongest thing I've encountered so far. I'll give you that. But the problem is, I cracked my neck. You blasted me into a hole so deep it took me forever to climb back out. Very annoying. And while I was climbing, I could hear you up here giving speeches about ants and pigs and whatever. I pulled my sword from the ground, rested it on my shoulder. So let me correct you on something. You're a god. You're coming. Your entire demon species. I took one step forward. The ground cracked under my boot. You're the ants. You should be the ones trembling. You should be the ones running. I pointed my sword directly at his reforming chest. I will become your nightmare. Let me rewind a bit and tell you what was happening on Claude's side while I was climbing out of that stupid crater. Claude and his soldiers had watched me disappear into a pillar of hellfire. From their perspective, the strongest person they'd ever met just got vaporized. So naturally, they did what heroes do. They lined up to die fighting anyway. Claude slammed his shield into the ground. 20 heavy armored soldiers formed up behind him. The young ones in front were swallowing so hard you could hear their throats clicking. Archers pulled bowstrings taut, but their arms shook with pure terror. The mages were trying to chant spells through chattering teeth. Every single person's knuckles had gone white from gripping their weapons too hard. They were ready to charge a demon they couldn't hurt, because that's what Malaga warriors do apparently. These people were insane. In the best possible way. Then MY contribution arrived. A boom that split the sky. Colonzo's face twisted in confusion a split second before his chest imploded, caved in like someone had punched a bowling ball through a watermelon. His red-scaled skin shattered outward in a radial pattern, like a windshield hit by a cannonball. My spinning giant sword had crossed the entire battlefield and hit him dead center with the force of a small meteor. Every soldier's voice died in their throat. They watched this 3-meter-tall demon, this invincible nightmare that had just made them write their wills, get launched backward like a ragdoll. His body smashed through 3 stone buildings in sequence, each one collapsing into rubble as he plowed through. My sword embedded itself in the ground, standing upright like a monument. Claude saw it, and his bloodshot eyes went wide. He recognized it immediately. Then I climbed out of the hole. Just casually pulled myself over the edge, stood up, dusted off my armor. Not a burn. Not a scratch. Not even a tan. The most powerful attack a high-level demon could produce, delivered point blank, and my response was, that was a long climb. Claude slammed his palm against his own chest plate so hard the sound echoed across the battlefield louder than collapsing buildings. His voice cracked as he pointed at me with a trembling finger. Look. Everyone look at him. This grizzled, battle-hardened old warrior was literally shaking with emotion. He doesn't even have a scratch. Not even a damn scratch. He hammered his chest plate again. Clang. Like he needed to physically beat the disbelief out of his own body. The soldiers looked where he was pointing. Through the thinning smoke, they saw me, just standing there, casually shaking dirt off my shoulders like I'd tripped in a garden instead of surviving a demonic nuke. Someone screamed. Not in fear, in joy. One voice broke the dam, and then everyone was screaming. Sir Oleg is alive. The demon was knocked back. For Malaga, the war cries hit like a tsunami. The sound was so loud it literally pushed the clouds apart. I'm not exaggerating. The dark overcast sky that Colonzo's presence had summoned actually started breaking up from the volume of human defiance being screamed at it. Far behind the battle lines, civilians who'd been evacuating stopped in their tracks. A woman clutching her daughter tightened her grip, hearing the distant thunder of metal and voices. Mama, the little girl said, hugging a dirty stuffed toy to her chest. Are the soldiers singing? The mother stood on tiptoe, peering toward the city walls where flags still flew. A tear cut a clean line through the soot on her cheek. No, sweetheart. They're celebrating. The dawn is coming. Mama. Look. The little girl pointed up with a mud-speckled finger. The sun, and right on cue, because apparently the universe has a flair for dramatic timing. A single beam of golden sunlight pierced through the clouds. It started thin as thread, then widened, then exploded into a full sunrise that washed the entire ruined battlefield in warm, golden light. In that light, with my sword in hand and demon blood evaporating off the blade, I apparently looked like some kind of divine warrior descended from the heavens. At least that's what I was told later. Personally, I was thinking about how annoying that crater had been to climb out of. Now here's the part that almost made me lose my composure in the middle of the most epic moment of my life. Kalonzos, this terrifying, building-sized, dimension-hopping high-level demon from the literal pits of hell, was scared of me. He was trembling, actually physically shaking. His claws were scrabbling at the ground as he tried to crawl away, digging trenches with his fingernails. He couldn't speak, couldn't think. The great blood-marrow tyrant, consumer of worlds, was experiencing fear for the first time in his existence. The same emotion he'd inflicted on thousands of victims was now eating him alive, and he had absolutely no idea how to handle it. I walked toward him, slowly. Each step sank into the earth, creating tiny earthquakes. Heavy, deliberate, the way you'd approach a cornered animal, except I was the predator and he was the one backed against the wall. He scrambled backward on all fours, claws gouging the stone, eyes wild with panic. Then he noticed his chest had fully regenerated. The fear drained from his face. He stopped crawling, stood up, and just like that, embarrassment replaced terror, which immediately got replaced by rage. A demon who'd just experienced his first moment of cowardice and hated himself for it. He turned to face me. His voice came out low, controlled, simmering. I admit, you are no insect. You truly deserve the title of our destined enemy. You even made me feel what those weaklings feel. Impressive. Then his voice cranked up to 11. H-A-H-A-H-A-H-A. But so what? You think you can kill me? My kind is immortal. Even if you can't defeat me, what can you do? I can fight you all day. Even longer. Two things happened in my brain simultaneously. First, I can fight you all day. Where had I heard that before? That was basically a League of Legends champion quote. Was this demon secretly a gamer? Was there a rift in hell? Second, I can do this all day. Wait, no, that was Captain America. This demon was accidentally quoting both a MOBA character and a Marvel hero and had absolutely no idea. I almost broke character. Almost cracked a smile right there in the middle of my dramatic stare down. My jaw physically hurt from clenching to keep the laugh in. Where'd this bootleg sword demon come from? I muttered under my breath. No, wait, he uses an axe. And he's not even as handsome as the real one. Kalonzos noticed I wasn't reacting to his epic speech. I was just standing there, clearly thinking about something else entirely, treating his immortality declaration like background noise. This made him furious. Being ignored was somehow worse than being punched through 3 buildings. He roared and charged. This time I didn't play defense. The instant he got close, I lifted my leg and kicked him in the torso. One kick. His massive body folded around my boot like a lawn chair, then rocketed backward like he'd been fired from a cannon. 3-meter-tall demon, flying through the air, limbs flailing, looking absolutely ridiculous. Before he even landed, I was already swinging. Horizontal slash, clean and fast. The giant sword passed through his midsection with almost no resistance, like cutting warm butter with a hot knife. His body separated into 2 perfectly divided halves. Top half went one direction. Bottom half went the other. Purple blood sprayed in a beautiful arc that caught the morning sunlight and honestly looked kind of pretty in a horrifying way. For about 2 seconds, I thought that might be it. Then the blood threads appeared. Thousands of them, tiny, writhing, red tendrils stretching between his upper and lower body like living stitches. They pulled the 2 halves back together, weaving and reconnecting flesh and bone and muscle in real time. Like watching a surgery performed by a million microscopic spiders working at triple speed. He was regenerating. Again. Of course he was regenerating. The guy had literally just told me he was immortal, and I'd gone and cut him in half anyway like the information hadn't registered. His upper body was already reattaching to his lower body, the gap closing inch by inch, those disgusting blood threads knitting everything back together. Within seconds, he'd be whole again. Within a minute, he'd be fighting at full strength. And this cycle could apparently repeat forever. "I can fight you all day," he'd said. Yeah, he probably could. Every wound I inflicted would heal. Every limb I cut off would grow back. Every devastating blow would be undone by regeneration in under a minute. I could keep chopping him into pieces until the sun went down, came back up, and went down again, and he'd just keep reassembling like the world's most aggressive jigsaw puzzle. My sword could hurt him. My speed could catch him. My armor could tank everything he threw at me. But I couldn't finish him. Not like this. Not with just hitting harder and faster. I needed a different approach. Standing there in the morning light, watching a bisected demon stitch himself back together while an army of traumatized soldiers cheered my name, I had exactly one coherent thought. I really should have read more of those magic books in the library. I told you. My kind is immortal. You cannot kill me. Accept your fate. Kalonzos was screaming at me like a kid who just learned a new word and won't stop using it. Immortal this, immortal that. Very impressive vocabulary for a giant red idiot. I ignored him completely. His trash talk had become background noise, like a broken radio playing the same annoying song on loop. I'd already gotten everything I needed from our fight. The cutting in half thing wasn't pointless rage, it was an experiment. I wanted to see exactly how his regeneration worked, how fast it kicked in, and whether pure physical damage could ever overwhelm it. Answer: no, not with brute force alone. He'd stitch himself back together no matter how many pieces I made. I needed something else. And I'd been thinking about that, something else, ever since I watched Claude and Bound fight earlier tonight. See, Claude had this technique. He'd pull magical energy from inside his body and coat himself in it, turning into a crimson comet. And Bound channeled magic through his staff, concentrating the power of multiple mages into devastating attacks. I'd watched both of them very carefully, not just casually observed. I'd studied every movement, every flow of energy, every technique they used to guide magic from inside their bodies to outside. I'd never used magic before. Never tried. Never even thought about it. But my wisdom stat was at 81, and apparently that was high enough to notice patterns that most people spend decades learning in academies. So while Kalonzos was busy, giving his, "I'm immortal and you can't do anything about it," speech for the 14th time, I raised my giant sword over my head and did something incredibly stupid. I reached inside myself, found the magic that had apparently been sitting there this whole time doing nothing, grabbed it, and yanked. It felt like squeezing water out of a rock with my bare hands. Not the gentle, flowing extraction that Bound did with decades of practice. More like ripping a fire hydrant out of the ground. Raw, violent. The magical equivalent of solving a Rubik's Cube by smashing it with a hammer. The magic poured into my sword. And kept pouring. And kept pouring. The blade started glowing white. Not faintly, not subtly. Blinding white, like I was holding a piece of the sun. Wind erupted around me from nowhere, whipping debris in circles. The air itself warped and twisted near the blade as the concentration of magical energy exceeded what the local reality was designed to handle. Kalonzos stopped talking mid-sentence. The arrogance drained from his face like someone pulled a plug. His voice started breaking. You. How is? Why would? What are you? For the second time tonight, a high-level demon was reduced to stuttering incoherence by looking at me. I was starting to think this was my actual superpower, not strength, not speed, but the ability to make ancient evil beings forget how sentences work. Meanwhile, far behind me, Bound was having a professional crisis. The old mage's eyes had gone so wide his monocle probably would have popped off if he wore one. His bony fingers were death gripping his staff as he watched what I was doing and tried to process it through the lens of someone who'd spent his entire life studying magical theory. The magical density is insane, he sputtered. He's channeling his internal magic into the sword. But how? He doesn't know any formal techniques. He's just... Then it clicked. He remembered. During every fight tonight, I hadn't just been smashing things, I'd been watching. When Bound guided magic through his staff, I was watching. When Claude ignited his body enhancement, I was watching. When the cultist mages cast their spells, I was watching. Learning. Absorbing. Filing it all away. He learned it just from observing us. Bound's voice came out like a dying whisper. During combat? That's, that's not how magic works. You can't just watch someone, and then, he looked at me, still standing there, still squeezing out more magic like I was wringing a towel, completely unbothered, and his entire worldview collapsed. He's a monster, Bounce said quietly. Thank the gods he's on our side. And thank the gods Fanny wasn't raised to be a spoiled brat. Hey. Claude had apparently calmed down enough to eavesdrop. What's that about Fanny having a bad temper? My daughter is perfect, but Bound wasn't listening anymore. He was muttering to himself, completely lost in horrified academic analysis. He's not doing proper magic extraction at all. He's forcing it out, like squeezing a sponge until it tears. Normally, this would shred a person's magical circuits, kill them instantly, or at minimum cripple them for life. But his body is just taking it, and he keeps going. More and more and more. He stared at me with the expression of a physics professor watching someone casually violate the laws of thermodynamics. I feel like my entire career has been wasted, he said flatly, his magnificent mustache drooping in defeat. Decades of research. Decades. And this kid just brute forces magic out of his body like squeezing toothpaste, and it works. This has never happened before in recorded history. Claude, being Claude, immediately pivoted to the practical implications. But what if his children could do the same thing? Inherit that trait? If only we knew his family name. Bound's staff hit the ground with a sharp crack. You're not suggesting, Claude smiled. The kind of smile that says, I am absolutely suggesting exactly what you think I'm suggesting. You'd really go through with it? Bound's voice dropped low. What choice do I have? Claude looked down at his own arms, thinner than they used to be, scarred, aging. My body is failing. I don't know how many years I have left. Fanny needs someone to protect her. His voice went rough, especially after that ambush. She's still not strong enough to face this world's cruelty alone. And Oleg is honest, powerful, young, brave, saved my daughter's life, saved the entire city multiple times, and doesn't have any of the usual noble arrogance. He paused. I just need to find out if he's already married. Wait. Hold on. Were these two old men matchmaking me with Fanny right now? In the middle of a demon battle? While I was literally charging up a magic nuke. I obviously couldn't hear their conversation at the time. I was told about it later, but seriously. Claude was out here planning his daughter's wedding while a high-level demon was trying to destroy his city. The man had his priorities sorted in the most chaotic order possible, and somehow I respected it. Bound sighed so hard his entire body deflated. Fanny is going to be furious. That girl has hated people making decisions for her since she was 5. Important things she'll accept, but personal choices? Once she decides something, a charging bull couldn't change her mind. She's exactly like her mother in that way. The old mage's eyes went distant for a moment, remembering someone, maybe. A student, a friend, someone long gone. Claude's iron composure softened. His armored shoulders sagged slightly. I know. If my body were still what it was 20 years ago, if Fanny were already strong enough to stand on her own, what father wants to hand his daughter to someone else? But reality doesn't care about what fathers want. Then he laughed, loud, sudden, tinged with bitterness. At least we're both still alive. That's enough for now. He clapped Bound on the shoulder hard enough to rattle the old man's teeth. His gaze drifted to me, eyes going gentle. Besides, I've seen how Fanny looks at him. Those eyes stopped being grateful a long time ago. Every time she mentions his name, her face lights up like your staff crystal. Don't argue with me, old bachelor. I'm the one who's been married. Bound, catching a stray bullet he didn't ask for, turned the color of a thundercloud. Just don't come crying to me when she finds out. Claude's smile faded. He stared toward the castle keep, sunset stretching his shadow into something long and thin and tired. Every dent and scratch on his armor caught the light. That's exactly why I need to find someone worthy while I can still swing a sword. Before it's too late. Heavy stuff. Beautiful stuff. The kind of father's love that hurts to hear about. But back to me and the giant glowing sword. My blade was now completely wrapped in solid white magic. Not glowing with light, it was light. A sword-shaped piece of pure concentrated magical energy, so dense that the space around it was visibly bending. Looking at it probably would have given a normal person a migraine. And in my head, one extremely dangerous thought surfaced. Can I do Excalibur? Like actually? Saber's noble phantasm. Am I about to go full fate/stay night right now? I considered it for exactly half a second. Then I imagined the beam going through Colonzo's, through the buildings behind him, through the city walls, through the farmland beyond, and possibly carving a canyon across the continent. Yeah, no. The goal is to save Malaga, not accidentally delete it from the map. Gonna need to aim carefully. Or better yet, find a way to deliver this energy at point-blank range. As for Colonzo's, the great blood marrow tyrant, the immortal terror of the abyss, the demon who 5 minutes ago was giving speeches about eternal darkness and the coming of his species, he was trying to run. Full-blown panic mode. Scrambling, clawing at the air, desperately trying to tear open a portal back to hell. Except the summoning ritual was a one-way ticket. It could bring demons into the world but couldn't send them back. The magical equivalent of a flight with no return booking. The realization hit him like a truck. He was stuck here, in this world, with me. And I was walking toward him holding a sword made of concentrated, everything you've ever feared. His regret was almost tangible. I could practically hear his internal monologue. Why did I volunteer for this assignment? Why did I push to the front of the line when they were picking who got summoned? Why didn't I let Steve from accounting take this one? Too late for buyer's remorse, buddy. I was coming. Colonzo's ran. The great blood marrow tyrant, the immortal terror of hell, the demon who'd been giving speeches about crushing humanity like insects 5 minutes ago, was running away from me like a kid who just broke a window. And he wasn't even good at it. The idiot was so massive he couldn't fit inside buildings. He tried. I literally watched a 3-meter-tall demon attempt to hide behind a house that was shorter than he was, his horns and shoulders sticking out like a toddler hiding behind a curtain with their feet showing. His own terrifying body, the thing that was supposed to make mortals wet themselves in fear, was now his biggest problem. Too big to hide. Too big to squeeze through alleys. Too big to do anything except keep running in a straight line while I walked behind him, holding a sword made of condensed death. He was hundreds of meters ahead of me now. Didn't matter. I could feel his panic like a scent trail. And I could tell from the way he kept glancing back that he could feel me. That prickling at the back of his neck, that instinct screaming, the thing behind you is going to kill you, and there is nothing in any dimension that will stop it. I shifted my grip. Right hand normal, left hand reversed. Pulled the sword back to my hip in a drawing stance. The blade hummed, a low, bone-deep vibration that made the air itself feel nervous. Then I launched. My legs hit the ground like pistons. The shockwave ripped through everything on either side of my path. Walls crumbling, debris flying, dust tornadoes spiraling in my wake. I covered hundreds of meters in a heartbeat and blew past Colonzo's. My boots threw sparks as I skidded to a stop directly in front of him. He couldn't brake. 3-meter-tall demon running full speed, and suddenly there's a wall of armored human in his path. His own momentum slammed him straight into me, specifically into the pommel of my sword, which I'd positioned right at chest height. Crack. His sternum collapsed inward again, spiderweb fractures radiating outward. His body crumpled around the impact point and then launched skyward from the force, shrieking through the air, friction making him whistle like a kettle. I looked up, tracked his trajectory, bent my knees. What happened next is going to sound made up. I know how it sounds. I was there, and even I think it sounds like anime nonsense. But here we go. I swung the sword upward in a drawing/motion, from hip to sky in one continuous arc. The blade left an afterimage so persistent it hung in the air like a scar in reality. And from the edge of the sword, all the magic I'd been brutally squeezing out of my body for the last several minutes released. A beam of pure white energy erupted from the blade and screamed upward. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. The air along its path didn't just get hot. It literally warped, bending light like a heat mirage on steroids. Everything within 50 meters of the beam's trajectory went white. The ground beneath it cracked. Buildings nearby that had somehow survived everything else tonight finally gave up and fell over. Colonzo's was flailing in midair like a cat thrown into a swimming pool. He saw it coming, tried to dodge by swimming through the air with his limbs, which, for the record, does not work outside of cartoons. His pupils shrank to needle points. His mouth moved, trying to beg, trying to curse. Didn't matter. The beam was faster than sound. The white light hit him dead center and split him vertically, from crown to crotch, perfectly down the middle. Two symmetrical halves of demon separated in midair with surgical precision. The cut surfaces were so clean and flat they looked polished. The beam kept going past him, up through the clouds, tearing a visible gash in the overcast sky, letting blue heaven peek through the wound. I just accidentally gave the sky a haircut. Sorry about that. Now, normally this is where Colonzo's would start stitching himself back together. His internal meat threads would bridge the gap, his organs would wriggle back into position, and 30 seconds later, he'd be whole and talking trash again. Not this time. The magic I'd infused into the strike was clinging to his wound surfaces. White flames danced along every exposed inch of demon flesh, and every time a blood thread tried to reach across and reconnect the two halves, sizzle, it evaporated on contact. Like touching a hot stove. The regeneration was trying. It was desperately trying. Blood vessels extended, got burned away. Tissue formed, got incinerated. His healing factor was fighting my magic in real time, and my magic was winning. Regeneration? Meat anti-healing. I basically invented a cauterization spell by accident. Turns out when you shove enough raw magic into a wound, nothing can grow back. Who needs medical knowledge when you have violence? Colonzo's two halves hung in the air for a frozen moment. Both eyeballs, one in each half, were still wide with terror. Then something changed. His expression locked up, went completely blank, like he was listening to something, a voice that nobody else could hear. Something speaking to him from wherever demons go when they're not ruining everyone's day. Then, simultaneously, both halves of his face turned to look down at me and smiled. Not a fierce smile, not a rage smile, a calm, knowing, deeply unsettling smile, perfectly symmetrical across his split face, like his two halves had rehearsed it. The kind of smile that says, "This isn't over," without using words. Flames erupted from inside his body. Not purple hellfire, something else. The same self-immolation I'd seen from every dead demon before. His organs caught fire first, then his muscles, then his skin. The massive body crumbled inward, layer by layer, burning from the inside out. Ash scattered in the morning wind like dark snowflakes. The last thing to go was his eyes, two burning orbs of hatred, reflecting my armored silhouette in their pupils, staring at me with a promise that transcended death. Then they were gone, and so was he. Nothing left but ash and the fading smell of sulfur. Silence. The deepest silence I'd experienced since arriving in this world. No demon roars. No explosions. No screaming. Just wind, and the distant sound of a city holding its breath. Far away, I could see Claude and Bound standing together. Even from this distance, I could tell they were crying. Two old warriors, covered in blood and dust, tears cutting tracks through the grime on their faces, watching the spot where their worst nightmare had just evaporated. The soldiers were frozen, covered in soot, lips cracked, eyes bloodshot, staring at the empty sky where a demon used to be. Processing. Not quite believing. Did we? When? Is it really dead? It's not coming back, right? The questions came in hoarse whispers. Fragile. Like speaking too loudly might undo reality and bring the horror back. I turned to face them, lifted my giant sword one-handed over my head. The last traces of magic energy crackled off the blade in tiny sparks of light that floated upward like fireflies. Then I pushed magic into my voice. Not a spell, just raw amplification, because apparently I could do that now, and roared 3 words across the battlefield. We won. 1 second of silence. Then the world exploded. Helmets flew into the air like metal birds. Soldiers tackled each other to the ground in bear hugs. Grown men dropped to their knees and wailed. Not from fear, but from the overwhelming relief of being alive when they'd already accepted death. A freckle-faced young soldier punched the ground over and over, sobbing. Marco, did you see that? Did you see? The mages, the dignified, proper, don't touch my hat. Mages, ripped off their pointed hats, threw their precious staffs on the ground, and started dancing. One of them broke into what I can only describe as a traditional harvest jig, and he was so bad at it that everyone around him started laughing through their tears. Bound fired a signal flare from his staff. A blue light rocketed into the sky and exploded into the shape of Malaga's lion crest. Across the city, garrison soldiers who'd been white-knuckling their posts finally collapsed. Some slid down walls. Some cried. Some just sat there, staring at the lion in the sky, unable to form words. In the civilian evacuation routes, The soldiers escorting families suddenly started cheering and whooping. The women and children didn't understand at first. Some started crying from the shock. But when the word, victory, rippled through the crowd, the entire street transformed. Strangers hugged strangers. An old grandmother with white hair pulled out a bottle of fruit wine she'd been saving, poured it on the muddy ground as a tribute, and then took a swig herself. Claude stood apart from the celebration, thumb running along the handle of a small dagger at his belt. Anderson's dagger. It had fallen from the guard captain's body during the transformation, right before the teleportation spell pulled Claude away. The silver handle was carved with delicate patterns, a personal weapon, lovingly maintained for decades. Sunset caught the blade and turned it into a glowing ember. For a moment, Claude saw something, or someone, in the reflection. A young man with a chipped iron sword, standing in a slum doorway, swearing to protect his lord's back forever. "You'd be proud right now," Claude whispered. "Or maybe you already know. You're probably not watching me anyway. You'd be guarding Fanny. That's where you'd want to be." Bound's calloused hand landed on Claude's shoulder plate. The old mage looked at his friend's face, saw the tear tracks, and his eyes went wide. He hadn't seen Claude cry since his wife died 20 years ago. Magic flashed. Bound had cast something, a preservation spell, capturing the moment, freezing it in magical amber forever. Claude frantically wiped his face, turning brick red. "You old keepsake," Bound said simply. Then he looked toward me, standing in the ruins, sword raised, soldiers celebrating around my feet, and smiled. Neither of them needed to say anything else. They'd been friends too long for words. But if I had to guess what they were thinking, it was probably something like, "We're alive. Our city is alive." And that ridiculous, overpowered, socially awkward young man with no combat training who learned magic by watching us fight for 30 seconds just killed a high-level demon by inventing a technique that violates every law of magical theory ever written. "We're going to be okay." And somewhere in the castle keep, a silver-haired girl with ocean blue eyes was probably smiling too. But I didn't know that yet. All I knew was that the demon was dead, the quest notification had finally cleared, my sword arm was tired for the first time in months, and somewhere in this city there was leftover honey-glazed roast pork with my name on it. Priorities. I had just finished shouting, "We won," with magically amplified volume, feeling like the coolest person in any universe, when my spine turned into an icicle. The malice was back, stronger than before. "You've got to be kidding me." I looked up. The clear sky, the beautiful, sunrise-filled sky that had perfectly timed its dramatic appearance for my victory moment, was getting eaten alive by storm clouds. Right where Colonzo's had disintegrated, the air was twisting and warping like a broken TV screen. A tiny magic circle appeared, no bigger than my palm. Then it started growing. Dark purple lines spread outward like veins in a bloodshot eyeball, branching and multiplying and expanding until the pattern covered half the sky. The entire ceiling of the world turned into one massive ritual circle, spinning slowly, pulsing with power that made Colonzo's feel like a warm-up act. All forces on alert. The celebration died like someone unplugged the music at a party. Swords came out. Shields went up. Every face that had been laughing 2 seconds ago went ghost white. A soldier near me swallowed so hard I could hear his throat click from 10 meters away. The civilians who'd just stopped running, who'd just started hugging each other and crying happy tears, got shoved right back into evacuation mode by panicking soldiers. But when they looked up and saw the sky-sized magic circle stretching over the entire city like a predator's wing, there was nowhere to run to. It covered everything. Every street, every building, every person, all inside the circle's shadow. "Bound, can you analyze it?" Claude's voice was sandpaper. The old mage was sweating bullets, his staff flickering with unstable light like a dying flashlight. "Nothing. I can't read anything from it. But my gut says it's nothing good." He tried a detection spell. Got absolutely zero information back. Whatever was behind that circle was operating on a level beyond anything Bound's magic could comprehend. We all stared at the sky in silence. The unspoken fear was deafening. If something bigger than Colonzo's came through that circle. Minutes passed. Nothing happened. The circle just hung there, spinning, glowing, mocking us. Nobody moved. Nobody blinked. Soldiers stood in combat stances so long their muscles started cramping, but nobody dared relax. Sweat beaded in armor joints and caught the blood-red light from above, making everyone look like they were bleeding from their seams. Then the circle started spinning faster. The sky turned fully red. Not sunset red, hell red, like someone had dipped the entire atmosphere in a bucket of blood. The clouds churned and twisted until it felt like we were standing at the bottom of a crimson ocean, looking up at something vast and hungry peering down. And then IT spoke. Last blood of Herman. Your strength has exceeded our expectations. You are far more entertaining than those ancestors who have already become dust and bones. The voice came from everywhere. Not from a mouth, from the circle itself, from the sky, from the air in my lungs. The sound waves hit the city walls hard enough to crack mortar. Several civilians collapsed, dry heaving from the sheer pressure of the voice existing near them. But the strong one has always been only you. Has it not? Those last words sharpened into a piercing whine that made people's ears bleed. I could feel Claude behind me, rigid as a statue, ice running up his spine. Bound's robe was soaked through with cold sweat. The thing speaking wasn't just powerful, its voice was a weapon. Breathing near it felt like a privilege it could revoke. I didn't respond, didn't give it the satisfaction. Instead, I started pulling magic from my body again. That brutal, squeeze-the-sponge technique that apparently violated every law of magical theory, and channeled it into my sword. The voice seemed amused by this. Its tone shifted to something almost playful, like a cat batting at a mouse. Ah, it seems you don't understand my meaning. Then let me show you directly. We will return to this world. We will rule, slaughter, and dominate all. The question is, can you protect this city? Can you protect everyone? 1,000 tiny eyes opened in the blood-red clouds. Literally, eyes, staring down at us from every direction. A sky full of pupils, all focused on the tiny figures below. Let us see. Last blood of Herman. Remember, I didn't let it finish. I swung my sword upward and unleashed everything I'd gathered. A beam of white energy, a full-power magic cannon, rocketed from my blade toward the circle like a laser cutting through hell's ceiling. Direct hit. White light exploded across the sky so bright that every single person in the city was forced to shut their eyes. The explosion lasted over 10 seconds. The ground shook like a ship in a hurricane. Buildings rattled. Teeth chattered. The entire world vibrated. When the light faded and people opened their eyes, desperate to see the circle destroyed, it was still there, completely untouched, spinning calmly, looking exactly the same as before, except now it seemed to be laughing at us. My attack, the same attack that had split a high-level demon in half and carved a hole in the clouds, had done nothing to the circle. Whatever was on the other side of that portal wasn't just stronger than Colonzo's. It was in a completely different dimension of power, literally and figuratively. Worthless insect. The elegant voice dropped its composure and became a shriek. Pure, unhinged fury. So my attack did hurt something, even if it didn't break the circle. The scream of pain disguised as anger told me everything. Then watch them burn. The circle pulsed, and from its center, something emerged. A fireball. Not a regular fireball. Not even a big fireball. This thing was nearly the size of the entire city. It descended from the circle like a second sun, so massive it blocked out what little sky remained visible. The air around it didn't just get hot, it literally caught fire. The atmosphere itself was combusting from proximity. Everyone below just stared. There was no running from this. No hiding. No clever tactics. A fireball the size of a city was falling on a city. The math was simple, and the math was death. The soldiers didn't panic this time. They'd been through too much tonight. Despair, hope, despair, hope, despair again. Their emotions had been through a blender so many times they'd come out the other side as a smooth paste of numb acceptance. They stood at their posts. Some saluted me. Some mouthed, "Thank you," with cracked lips, because they knew I'd tried my hardest. Claude looked at the fireball with the expression of a man who's done arguing with the universe. "This is not ideal," he said, which might be the greatest understatement in the history of understatements. Bound's staff was shaking so violently it had started cracking. The old mage was trying to calculate if he could shield the city. Blood leaked from his mouth mid-calculation. "I can't. My mana isn't enough. I can't block that." Cough. He knew the answer before he finished asking. Claude grabbed his friend's shoulder. "Stop. Don't kill yourself. His voice was quiet now. Accepting. He was thinking about Fanny. I fired another magic cannon at the fireball. Hit it dead center. Actually pushed it back for a moment. I could see it slow, halt, start to retreat upward. Then laughter. That damned laughter from the circle. The fireball exploded. Not into nothing, into 1,000 smaller fireballs. Fire rain. An entire sky's worth of burning death, spreading out to cover every square meter of the city. I couldn't block them all. I swung my sword like a madman, firing magic blasts in every direction, shattering dozens, hundreds of the falling flames. But there were too many. They slipped through the gaps. Burning meteors heading for rooftops, for streets, for the crowds of civilians huddled together with nowhere to go. I was watching Deville happen again. Except this time, it wasn't a village of strangers. It was an entire city of people who'd cheered my name 5 minutes ago. People who'd called me their hero. A little girl who'd pointed at the sunrise and said, "Look, Mama, the sun." Soldiers turned to face me one last time. Their burned, exhausted, tear-streaked faces held no blame. Just gratitude. They knew I'd given everything. They knew I couldn't save them from the sky. Civilians held each other. Looked upward. Their tears evaporated before they could fall. The heat was already turning moisture to steam. I couldn't stop it. I was the strongest person on this continent, and I couldn't stop rain. Then something happened that I will never, ever forget. A crimson streak launched from the top of the castle keep. A single bolt of red light, like a shooting star fired from a cannon, arcing across the blood-colored sky. It hit the zenith directly above the city and bloomed. A translucent red barrier, a dome of protective energy, expanded outward in every direction at impossible speed. It covered the entire city in less than a second. Every building, every street, every soldier, every civilian, every crying child and praying grandmother. All of it, enclosed in a shimmering red shell. The fire rain hit the barrier and stopped. Every single flaming meteor slammed into the red dome and fizzled into nothing. Sparks cascaded down the curved surface like the world's most terrifying fireworks show, but nothing got through. Not one flame. Not one ember. The barrier held. Perfectly. Completely. Absolutely. Everyone, soldiers, civilians, Claude, Bound, the demon in the sky, and me, stared in stunned silence. The voice from the circle screamed in pure, frothing, uncontrollable rage. The sound was so furious it cracked stones. Then the circle began shrinking, folding in on itself, retreating back to whatever hell it came from. In its final moments, we could all hear the demon cursing, threatening, swearing vengeance. A tantrum from something ancient and terrible that had just been cock-blocked by a force field. Then it was gone. The sky cleared. The red faded. Normal blue appeared, tentative and shy, like it wasn't sure the nightmare was really over. Nobody cheered. Not this time. They'd been burned, figuratively, too many times tonight. They just stood there, trembling, waiting, watching the empty sky, waiting for the next impossible horror to appear. 1 minute passed. 5 minutes. 10. 30. Nearly an hour of absolute silence. Thousands of people standing in the streets holding their breath. Nothing came. The first cheer was barely a whisper. Then someone else joined. Then 10 more. Then 100. Then the entire city detonated with emotion so raw and chaotic it made every previous celebration look like a polite golf clap. People laughed until they coughed blood. Couples kissed like the world was ending. Which, to be fair, it had been. Someone was literally rolling on the ground, pulling their own hair out in what I can only describe as joy-induced temporary insanity. This wasn't celebration. This was collective psychological breakdown, disguised as happiness. And it was beautiful. Claude, Bound said softly, looking at the red barrier still shimmering overhead. Yeah. Claude was grinning. The first genuine, full-face grin I'd ever seen from him. The true dragon crystal. Fanny installed it into the city's shield core. He started laughing. That idiot demon. If he'd kept the giant fireball together, the barrier might not have held. But he split it into weak, scattered rain. And the shield can block weak attacks all day. Ha ha ha. That's my daughter. Fanny. The girl who'd been sent back to the keep. The girl told to sit this one out. She'd remembered the one thing everyone else had forgotten. The dragon crystal she'd risked her life to retrieve. The whole reason for her original journey. She'd installed it into the city's ancient defense system at the exact perfect moment. The whole quest, the entire chain of events, me saving her in the forest, escorting her to the city, her retrieving the crystal, everything. It all led to this moment. One girl, one crystal, one barrier, one city saved. I drove my sword into the ground and leaned on it, gasping. For the first time since I'd arrived in this world and started my insane training montage, I was genuinely, completely, thoroughly exhausted. My legs were shaking. My arms felt like noodles. I'd squeezed so much magic out of my body that I felt hollow inside, like someone had scooped me out with a spoon. Since I finished my training at the castle, I wheezed. This is the first time I've been this tired. I looked at the quest panel. Foil the demon conspiracy in Malaga City. Complete. Reward. 5 free attribute points. 5 points. 5. After everything tonight, the cultists, the lesser demons, the goat demon, Colonzos, the sky demon's temper tantrum, nearly getting an entire city firebombed. 5 points. Worth it? Absolutely. But first, sleep. Food. Bath. In whatever order my body collapsed into first. So there I was, standing on a pile of rubble like the world's most exhausted action figure, when suddenly this giant red shield popped up over the entire city like somebody put a bowl over it. Turns out, while I was busy punching a demon dragon thing into next week, Fanny, the city lord's daughter, the one who's always smiling like she knows something you don't, went full secret agent mode. Apparently, she grabbed some fancy dragon crystal from her closet. Yeah, just casually keeping ancient dragon artifacts next to her socks. No big deal. Ran downstairs, kicked out all the servants, ripped up a carpet, and found a hidden door in the floor. Her great-grandpa left behind some magical machine under the city. The guy literally found it buried in the dirt one day and went, cool, free city shield generator. Wild family. She slammed the crystal into the machine. It lit up like a Christmas tree on fire, and boom, giant red force field blocked all the fire rain. Fanny basically went, this wave, I carry, and she absolutely did. Meanwhile, I'm standing there taking credit I don't even want. Claude and Bowen came marching over with the whole army behind them, grinning like proud dads. Then everyone kneeled. Like, the whole crowd. Hundreds of people just dropped to their knees and started calling me their savior. I panicked. I literally tried to redirect them. Hey, that shield came from the castle. Go thank the city lord. Not me. Nobody listened. Some old soldier stood up and gave a whole speech about how I exposed the demon conspiracy and fought the monster solo. Which, okay, fair, I did do that. But still, Claude just patted my shoulder and said, just accept it or they'll feel worse. So I sighed the deepest sigh of my entire life and went, fine, I accept your respect. And they lost it. Hero Oleg, echoing everywhere. Very embarrassing. Very loud. 0% chance of sneaking away quietly. Oh, and the best part? I dumped all my new stat points into endurance. My stamina hit 91. I went from, fought a dragon and I'm tired, to fought a dragon and I could run a marathon right now. My magic power went from a river to a whole ocean. I'm pretty sure if that fire rain happened again, I could just vaporize it myself with one big laser blast. No shield needed. Just me and pure overkill.